Chapter 1104. Intent Tier Battle Technique, Heart-Shattering Palm. The instant the cry from Xiaoyan's mouth sounded, his hand, which was covered in Genesis Qi, mercilessly pressed against Hall Master Yun's chest. The powerful force caused Hall Master Yun's heart to rapidly tremble. A deep fear uncontrollably rose from the bottom of his heart. It was difficult to imagine that Xiaoyan, whose cultivation was clearly much weaker than his, was able to unleash such a powerful force. Although he was already aware of Xiaoyan's strength, he was only able to clearly understand just how frightening Xiaoyan was after personally facing it. However, he was still a returnance expert after all. Even if Xiaoyan possessed extraordinary battle prowess, there was still a chance for Hall Master Yun to retaliate if he used his full strength. Tao of Darkness, Tao Materialization. The moment Xiaoyan's hand pressed against Hall Master Yun's chest, the sticky pitch-black power of the Great Tao rapidly enveloped the area. At the same time, all the power of the Great Tao in the surroundings began to churn violently as if they were alive. They twisted and twisted, turning into pitch-black vines that rapidly wrapped around Xiaoyan's body in an attempt to stop Xiaoyan's movements. With the obstruction of the power of the Great Tao, Xiaoyan's body began to rapidly slow down. In the end, he was basically unable to move at all. The pitch-black liquid wrapped around his golden body and even covered his face. Bzz. Finally, Xiaoyan's entire body was wrapped into an enormous cocoon under the unreasonable entanglement and tearing of the Great Tao of Darkness. The strength that had been imprinted on Hall Chief Yun's chest and was about to erupt was forcefully stopped. It was even pulled apart by a couple of inches. This caused Hall Chief Yun, whose heart was pounding wildly, to exhale a long breath at this moment. Bean-sized droplets of perspiration gathered and fell from his old face. After which, they were swallowed by the endless darkness. Humph, Xiaoyan, no matter how strong you are, you still can't change the fact that you're only at the origin transformation stage. The difference between cultivation levels can't be changed with brute force alone. A mocking voice was spat out from Hall Master Yun's mouth when his expression returned to normal. By relying on his powerful cultivation, he had ultimately managed to stop Xiaoyan. Although his earlier action had exhausted a lot of Genesis Qi in his body, he was still quite satisfied with the result. However, the answer to everything was not as simple as one imagined. The moment Hall Chief Yun uttered these words, Xiaoyan, who had been wrapped by the Great Tao of Darkness, suddenly moved. Chi. With a series of intense sizzling sounds, wisps of fire suddenly shot out from under the power of the Great Tao. At the same time, they were mixed with golden light. What? Hall Master Yun cried out in alarm. The power of the Great Tao wrapping around Xiaoyan's body was swiftly devoured by the fierce flames burning on Xiaoyan's body. From this point, it wasn't difficult to see that even the power of the Great Tao was inferior to the mysterious flames. Heart-shattering palm. Then Xiaoyan's palm, which didn't weaken in the slightest, slammed into Hall Master Yun's chest. Puchi. Ferocious destructive power invaded Hall Master Feng's body in an instant, and powerful Genesis Qi attacked his internal organs. Most importantly, one of the most powerful forces was attacking his heart, making his chest feel as though it was about to be torn apart. Ah! The indescribable pain caused Hall Master Yun to involuntarily emit a heart-wrenching cry. Her voice became hoarse, and the red light in her scarlet eyes gradually dimmed. Her face was filled with disbelief. Her body twitched, and mouthful after mouthful of fresh blood was spat out from her mouth. Her aura had become much weaker in an instant. Boom. Soon after, another low and deep muffled sound appeared. The strength contained within the heart-shattering palm was completely unleashed within Hall Chief Yun's body at this moment. Despite her trying her best to resist, she was destined to be injured by Xiaoyan's heart-shattering palm. Then Hall Master Yun's body was sent flying backwards uncontrollably. The black mist shrouding his body dissipated, and his skinny body was blasted out of the domain of darkness by Xiaoyan. At the same time, the domain of darkness also dissipated. Xiaoyan's face was pale, and the flames on his body gradually faded away. His chest was heaving up and down, and his heavy breathing indicated his current situation. While the heart-shattering palm was powerful, it also consumed a tremendous amount of Genesis Qi. Xiaoyan had consumed more than half of his Genesis Qi with this attack, and it was impossible for him to use any of his other trump cards. At this moment, Xiaoyan could only hope that this attack didn't waste the majority of his Genesis Qi. The sudden unexpected change in the sky caused the many experts who were fighting in the battleground to turn their eyes over. Numerous gazes that were filled with various emotions swiftly landed on Xiaoyan and Hall Chief Yun. Immediately, the expressions of everyone present changed. As a returnance expert, Hall Master Yun was in a horrible shape. Large patches of blood covered his body, which completely displayed his current situation to everyone. The hearts of the experts from the Lost Valley of the Qin Wastelands could not help but sink at this sight. They never thought that even a returnance expert like Hall Master Yun would be unable to do anything to Xiaoyan. Of course, while Hall Chief Yun was seriously injured, Xiaoyan was not in a much better state at this moment. His clothes were in tatters and his hair was in a mess. His face appeared extremely pale without the slightest trace of blood. His aura was extremely weak. His body, which was standing in the air, involuntarily swayed. It was as though he would fall from the sky at any moment. Xiaoyan, Lung Bingshuang immediately became slightly surprised when she saw this. She could not help but charge toward Xiaoyan, but she was stopped by Qin Shua. Qin Shua stared at Lung Bingshuang with his venomous eyes filled with killing intent. With a sudden movement, he charged toward Lung Bingshuang viciously. At the same time, he said in a chilling voice, "Bitch, do you still have the time to worry about others at a time like this? You better worry about yourself first." With that, he collided with Lung Bingshuang once again under her extremely cold gaze. This time, the collision between the two of them was much more brutal than before. On the other side, Yi Luotian narrowed his eyes as he stared at the miserable-looking Hall Chief Yun. His heart involuntarily felt shocked. At the same time, he rejoiced that he was not the one facing Xiaoyan. Otherwise, his fate would likely be even more miserable than Hall Chief Yun's. Cough, cough, cough. In the sky, Xiaoyan and Hall Master Yun raised their heads at the same time. Their eyes met, and a cold killing intent appeared in their eyes. "I have underestimated you. As expected, this chief has still underestimated your ability. After not seeing you for a few years, you have already grasped even more information than us. You are actually able to grasp something as frightening as an E-class Do technique. It must be said that this is our miscalculation. It is our fault for allowing you to live until now. However, this chief has also said that this time around I will definitely bring you back even if I have to pay a great price." A crazed expression that caused one's heart to turn cold surfaced on Hall Master Yun's face when he reached the end of his words. After which, he violently bit the tip of his tongue and a blood arrow shot out. Under his control, it floated in the air in front of him and turned into a thumb-sized blood droplet. After this blood droplet shot out, Hall Master Yun's originally pale face instantly turned completely white. His originally skinny old face appeared to have aged by dozens of years in an instant. His entire person was like a withered tree, appearing extremely horrifying. However, when one looked at his eyes again, there was not the slightest dimness. Instead, there was an even brighter glow and he appeared to be filled with energy. From this, one could see that spitting out this cluster of blood was a great price for Hall Master Yun. However, he did not hesitate in order to capture Xiaoyan today. "Xiaoyan, no matter what happens today, I will definitely bring you back." His hoarse voice resounded throughout the area. At the same time, Hall Master Yun rapidly formed a seal with his hands and the blood droplet floating in front of him began to churn violently. Spirit-devouring Yin. Suddenly, Hall Master Yun slammed his palm on the blood droplet that had condensed into a strange blood-colored rune. The blood immediately burst open and turned into a large blood fog. Waves of dense black fog also spread out at an alarming speed. The black fog churned and strange cries that sounded like ferocious ghosts constantly emitted from it, causing one to shudder in fear. Before Xiaoyan could do anything, the black fog had already spread to a large area of several hundred feet. It was like a small dark cloud that shrouded the sky above Shahi Pai. As for the people in the city below, they looked at the scene in the sky curiously. Other than a few people who were surprised, most of them looked on from the side as if it had nothing to do with them. However, they did not know that when Hall Master Yun's gaze swept past these people, it was as if he had seen a delicacy. Savagery and greed involuntarily flowed out from his eyes. These busybodies had unknowingly become the sacrifices of this battle. They could only blame themselves for this. These fearless busybodies would pay with their lives in the end. "Xiaoyan, you used an intent tier do skill earlier. You must not have much Genesis Chi left in your body." Turning his head, Hall Master Yun stared at Xiaoyan with a vicious smile. He clearly knew that they were on par with each other if they did not use any external methods. However, as a returnance expert, he did not accept the fact that he had lost. His current craziness was not only for the mission from above but also to prove to Xiaoyan the difference between them. Xiaoyan was non-committal in the face of this. His pair of dark black eyes were filled with uneasiness as they stared at the strange dark cloud in the sky. He could sense an extremely dense bloody aura from it. That kind of strength that was filled with cruelty caused even him to feel a wave of coldness. Eek. Fiendishine devour spirit, devour the world, devour. At Hall Master Huang's command, a strange squeaking sound suddenly came from the depths of the dark clouds in the sky. Immediately after, under the horrified gazes of the people in the city, huge balls of black fog fell from the sky like meteorites. Their target was the people who were watching the great battle in the Sand River at this moment. Immediately, the expressions of everyone in the city changed drastically. Do Qi rapidly surged out from their bodies in an attempt to block the black mist falling from the sky. Of course, there were some strong-willed people in the crowd who wanted to use their own strength to forcefully collide with the black fog. However, the moment the black fog came into contact with their bodies, it seemed to have turned into a large amount of viscous liquid that rapidly spread across their bodies. The most terrifying thing was that as it spread, it actually emitted a terrifying sound of teeth grinding and chewing. At the same time, the experts who were wrapped in the black fog couldn't help but let out extremely miserable screams one after another. The black mist was actually devouring the bodies of these experts. It was not just their bodies. Even their Do Qi and souls were being mercilessly devoured by the strange black mist. This kind of method could be called inhumane. In an instant, the Sand River, which had been calm a moment ago, had become chaotic. Regardless of whether one flew in the sky or on the ground, as long as one was in contact with the black mist, there would be a miserable painful cry being emitted. At the same time, the strength that the black mist had devoured was completely absorbed by Hall Master Yun. Hall Master Yun involuntarily raised her head and exhaled a long breath as she sensed the strength that was swiftly filling her body. Xiao Yin, who was in the empty space on the opposite side, watched this scene in the city below. His heart suddenly sank. After which, his eyes paused on Hall Master Yun's body. He held his breath and focused before speaking in a deep voice. Your race really treats human lives as less valuable than grass. Tsk, you can't put it this way. There is no free lunch in this world. They have come to watch a show, so they should leave something behind. Being able to be of use to me can be considered as not wasting their lives. Hall Master Yun's reply was merely a cold sneer in the face of Xiao Yan's words. Soon after, a low cry was emitted from her mouth. The black mist that filled the sky once again smashed into the city like dense raindrops. Hall Master Yun's aura swiftly rose amidst a series of painful cries. Although it could not be compared to when she was at her peak, she could still be described as powerful. If Hall Master Yun were to attack Xiao Yan at this moment, it was likely that the latter would not even be able to last one exchange. Unfortunately, he did not. Without being affected by the unexpected change in the city, Xiao Yan minded his own business and closed his eyes. His aura gradually recovered its calmness. The golden light that covered his body flickered slightly. Chapter 1105. The intense battle between the Shao Gate and the Qin Wasteland's Maze Valley continued. As time went on, the stalemate gradually became clear. There were close to 200 Do-Di fighting on both sides. At this moment, the originally balanced situation had begun to shift in the Shao Gate's favor. Even in the battle between the origin transformation experts on the other side, the heaven-reaching ape had already defeated his opponent with lightning-like speed. Qin Shua, who was battling Leng Bingshuang, was also surprised to find that Leng Bingshuang's strength had risen to a whole new level in less than 10 days. He was no longer Leng Bingshuang's match when he used his full strength. Amongst these individuals, the one who felt the most unbearable pain was undoubtedly Yi Luotian. He had spent his entire life cultivating poison, and after many years of training, not only had his qi techniques completely fused with his body, even the Genesis qi he absorbed and refined had become incomparably toxic. Although he would not easily display it, his opponents would definitely complain incessantly once he made a move. However, he had run into a tough nut to crack today. As a puppet, no matter how he collided with the Northern King with poison, even if he wanted to use poison to corrode the puppet, it was all to no avail. Not only was the Northern King not afraid of his poison, it was even completely unaffected by it. No matter how he attacked, it was all to no avail. On the other hand, if the Northern King's fist touched his body, it would definitely cause him serious injuries. Although both of them were at the origin transformation stage, the gap between them was truly unbearable. It was precisely because of this that Yi Luotian was in danger of being heavily injured by the Northern King from the very beginning of their clash. As a result, there were already dozens of wounds of various sizes on his body, and many of his bones were broken. As for Kai Murong Xian and the others, although they had yet to defeat their opponents, they were not at a disadvantage. With the giant ape by their side, defeating the origin transformation experts in the Qin Wasteland's Maze Valley was only a matter of time. Of course, the battle that attracted the most attention was still the one between Xiaoyan and Hall Master Luo. The painful and miserable cries in the city lasted for nearly 15 minutes. During this time, Hall Master Luo frantically devoured the Dou-Qi energy that had been stolen. Clumps of black mist became incomparably viscous after being devoured and returned to Hall Master Luo's body with a tremendous amount of energy. As the viscous black mist entered Hall Master Luo's body, his body began to squirm strangely. His originally skinny body gradually swelled up. First, it was his abdomen, then his chest, his limbs, and finally his entire head. As Temple Master Yun's body began to swell, the expression on his face also began to distort. It was clear that he was in great pain at this time. In order to obtain power, he had resorted to such extreme means. The undead that he had devoured would eventually become the cause of his own death. In just a few minutes, Hall Master Yun's body had swelled to several times its original size. His entire body had become abnormally bloated and he looked like a monster. His puffed-up chest wriggled involuntarily, as if there was another life beneath it. Hall Master Yun could not help but open his mouth and let out an extremely strange cry. However, the power in his body was still increasing at an extremely fast rate. Xiaoyan's face was still pale. His eyes were closed and his hands were behind his back. His black robes fluttered without any wind, and the golden light on his body had stopped flickering. He was extremely calm, as if everything before him had nothing to do with him. His presence was completely concealed within his body. If it were not for the fact that he was still breathing through his nose, people would have mistaken him for a dead person. This situation continued until Hall Master Luo finished absorbing the black mist. Xiaoyan's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and a fierce look appeared on his pale face. The moment his pitch-black eyes opened, his gaze fell on Hall Master Luo. As he glanced at the latter, who had completely turned into a monster, a mocking look flashed across Xiaoyan's eyes. Luo's pursuit of power had resulted in him becoming a monster that was neither human nor ghost. Was it all worth it? Xiaoyan prepared to die. Noticing Xiaoyan's gaze, Hall Master Luo once again let out a strange laugh. This time, even his voice had become extremely strange. It was as if countless ferocious ghosts were roaring at the same time, causing one to tremble in fear upon hearing it. After Hall Master Luo spoke, his enormous body suddenly charged toward Xiaoyan. His enormous body charged forward in a tyrannical manner, and powerful energy condensed in front of him. His entire body charged forward like a wild bull. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Xiaoyan. Hall Master Luo waved his enormous fist, which was several times larger than Xiaoyan's body, and viciously smashed it down on Xiaoyan. However, Xiaoyan remained indifferent to all of the actions of Hall Chief Yun. His eyes were icy cold as he looked at Hall Chief Yun, who was already in front of him. The enormous fist was swiftly magnified in his dark black eyes. After which, bang! The fist that came in a ferocious manner finally smashed heavily into the empty space in front of Xiaoyan. There seemed to be an invisible wall in this empty space that had forcefully blocked Hall Master Luo's punch, which could instantly kill a 9-star Dou-Di. What? The appearance of this scene caused Hall Master Luo's eyes to suddenly shrink. His mouth involuntarily let out an exclamation. How could his attack be blocked? Did Xiaoyan, who had already reached such a state, still have a trump card? Withdraw. In the next moment, Xiaoyan, whose eyes were ice cold, suddenly uttered a word. At the same time, an extremely powerful and invisible force suddenly charged out from Xiaoyan's body. It was like a hurricane that whistled out with the force of a mountain. Without giving the other party any chance to react, it violently smashed into Hall Master Luo's body and instantly forced his body back. Hall Master Luo raised his head with a face of disbelief. He saw that at this moment, there was an enormous illusory figure standing outside of Xiaoyan's body. The appearance of that illusory figure was undoubtedly Xiaoyan himself. When Hall Master Luo's gaze swept over, Xiaoyan finally slowly raised his hand. The movement of the illusory figure was also synchronized with the movement of his hand. Under Hall Master Luo's surprised gaze, Xiaoyan's hand suddenly clenched. One could hear the sound of metal colliding. At the spot where the hand of the illusory figure had clenched, a layer of golden light suddenly appeared on the originally invisible body. It was like a ripple that swiftly spread throughout his entire body. Finally, it transformed into an enormous golden illusory figure that stood in front of Hall Master Luo with an imposing manner. This was the final move of the 4-Saint manifestation skill, the Giant Elephant skill. In order to use the Giant Elephant skill, one must learn the first 3 moves in succession. Not only must one complete the practice, But one must also master the 3 moves and borrow the strength of the 3 moves to use the giant elephant skill. Chapter 1106. After forcing Hall Master Luo back, Xiaoyan turned his attention back to himself. Xiaoyan sensed that the muscles and bones all over his body were filled with an explosive strength that appeared to be burning. His heart involuntarily exclaimed in surprise at the strength of this giant elephant skill. Compared to the first 3 skills of the 4 sacred elephant display skill, the strength that the giant elephant skill gave Xiaoyan was even greater. That kind of strength had more than doubled compared to before. It was far from what any of the 3 sacred elephant skill could compare with. But on second thought it made sense. The giant elephant art was the product of the integration of the 3 arts, and it combined all the characteristics and advantages of the 3 arts. How could its power be the same? Then Xiaoyan's gaze shifted to the giant illusory image formed from pure force around his body. It was likely that the illusory image was the essence of the giant elephant art. Although it looked illusory on the surface, the heavy oppressive force it gave off was unique, and even the diamond glass body couldn't compare to it. Although the first 3 formulas could agglomerate an illusory image after practicing them, the usage of each formula was different. Naturally, the effect would be different. After merging the 3 formulas with the giant elephant skill, Xiaoyan would be able to achieve a perfect attack and defense with the giant elephant skill. Xiaoyan even had complete confidence in his own speed. He would definitely not be inferior in any way. The advantage of the wing elephant art was that it could increase a practitioner's speed in all aspects. Coupled with the heaven annihilation step and the formation of the giant elephant art, Xiaoyan's overall strength had risen to a whole new level in an instant. Even without the protection of Genesis Qi, Xiaoyan's strength couldn't be underestimated. Hall Master Luo wasn't in a hurry to kill Xiaoyan at the most critical moment. This would most likely become the mistake he would regret the most in his life. So you still have the strength to resist. But so what? You're already an arrow at the end of its flight. Let's see how big of a wave you can stir up. After a moment of surprise, Hall Master Luo relaxed a lot when he realized that Xiaoyan wasn't using Genesis Qi. After all, Genesis Qi was the true representation of power in this world, and brute force alone wouldn't be able to support it for long. This wasn't a threat to Hall Master Luo at all. Ghost Seal. Soon after, Hall Chief Yun's hands swiftly formed a seal. The black fog that lingered around her body also began to churn intensely. Soon, it agglomerated into a cluster of black fog the size of a soccer ball in front of her. The strangest thing was that a strange human face had appeared in front of the black fog. That human face was still struggling and wiggling at this moment. Its mouth was wide open and its face was filled with an extremely painful expression. Soon after, Hall Chief Yun forcefully pushed forward and this cluster of strange black fog violently charged toward Xiaoyan. Seeing the painful expression on Master Black Fog's face, Xiaoyan didn't need to think too much to know that the face belonged to one of the experts that Hall Master Luo had swallowed earlier. He didn't expect Hall Master Luo to be so insidious. Not only had he swallowed someone alive, but he had even used the spirit that had yet to dissipate as a dose skill. In this world, only people like Ghost Hall could do such a thing. To think that you won't even let off a dead person. What a bunch of inhumane beasts. With a furious curse, Xiaoyan's gaze swiftly landed on the cluster of black fog that was heading toward him. His eyes were sharp as he spread his right hand. His arm was extended and raised in front of him before slamming it down heavily. At the same time he opened his mouth and said, "As for you, let me free you." Bang! The moment Xiaoyan's words faded, the huge illusory hand abruptly slammed down and smashed the ball of black fog to pieces. Even the power and spirit within was instantly blasted into nothingness. Hall Master Luo's attack had been forcibly destroyed by Xiaoyan in the most domineering manner possible. Damn it! Shock involuntarily flashed across Hall Master Luo's scarlet eyes when he saw this scene. He cursed under his breath. After which, his body abruptly turned and his feet stomped heavily on empty space. The invisible space instantly shattered and Hall Master Luo's body instantly turned into a cannonball. In the blink of an eye he arrived in front of Xiaoyan. He raised his hand and smashed heavily at Xiaoyan. Bang! However, Hall Chief Yun's attack was once again blocked by Xiaoyan. Hall Chief Yun's large fist was firmly grabbed by Xiaoyan's giant elephant skill in front of Hall Chief Yun's disbelieving eyes. Regardless of how the latter struggled, it was to no avail. On the other hand, Xiaoyan's hand, which was grabbing Hall Chief Yun's fist, violently exerted force. Hall Chief Yun's wrist was immediately broken by this powerful force. A painful roar was emitted from Hall Chief Yun's mouth. Soon after, Xiaoyan once again pulled back with great force, pulling Hall Chifyun's body in front of him. His right leg was lifted in a lightning-like manner and heavily smashed into Hall Chifyun's chest with a lightning-like momentum. Bang! With a loud bang, Hall Master Yun's chest instantly caved in. Her face instantly turned red, and a pair of scarlet eyes almost popped out of her eye sockets. Before she could struggle again, the powerful force sent Hall Master Yun flying. Hugh! After sending Hall Master Luo flying, Xiaoyan could not help but exhale deeply. His chest heaved uncontrollably as he lifted his gaze and looked in the direction Hall Master Luo had been sent flying. Fierce killing intent flashed in his eyes. Roar! That wretched guy! Very quickly, Hall Master Yun's furious curses came from the distant sky once again. His crazy killing intent caused a chill to rise in everyone's hearts even though they were far away. A wave of rushing wind sound appeared in the sky. It was sharp and ear-piercing, but Xiaoyan was indifferent to it. While he focused his attention, Hall Chifyun's body, which had just been sent flying, had once again charged over. She came in a ferocious manner. Compared to earlier, she was undoubtedly even stronger, causing one to not dare underestimate her. Even though this was the case, Xiaoyan still clenched his fist at a steady pace. The firm, fierce, and overbearing strength that filled the muscles all over his body began to be maneuvered at this moment. At the same time, the little remaining Genesis chi in his body was gathered in his right fist. Even though he had yet to unleash the powerful force, it still caused the invisible space to tremble slightly, forming circular ripples. When Hall Chifyun once again arrived in front of Xiaoyan, his aura was like that of a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. It appeared as though he wanted to swallow Xiaoyan in one gulp. Wave after wave of powerful Do Chi agglomerated in front of him. His entire body had transformed into the strongest weapon. In this kind of condition, any Do skill was superfluous. Only a direct collision would be able to swiftly produce the result that he wanted. At the same time, Xiaoyan's bent right arm bounced back like a spring. The speed of his punch was unimaginable. Just as his fist, which was filled with strength, was about to collide with Hall Chifyun, Xiaoyan's mouth once again emitted a thunder-like explosive cry. Level 8 Smash. Chapter 1107. Bang! The sound of a heavy collision sounded in the sky. The moment the two collided, a terrifying energy wave swiftly spread out with the two of them at the center. Wherever it passed, the invisible space shattered an inch at a time. In the blink of an eye, the space 1,000 feet around the two of them had turned into an endless darkness. The powerful Do Chi, which was wrapped by the black fog, launched a violent attack on Xiaoyan's body. Although most of the strength was blocked by the giant elephant skill, the remaining portion also forced Xiaoyan back. Of course, compared to Xiaoyan, Hall Master Yun's aura churned within his body under the powerful hidden force of the eighth collapse. His condition had deteriorated greatly. Even the remnant souls of those people whom he had suppressed earlier had borrowed the strength of the eighth collapse to wildly struggle within his body. Damn it! Hall Master Yun's expression involuntarily changed when she sensed the rebellion of the remnant souls in her body. She cursed quietly and hurriedly maneuvered the Do Chi in her body. Only then did she manage to suppress them with great difficulty. Soon after, Xiaoyan's body once again charged forward. The strong illusory figure nimbly flashed as Xiaoyan's body rotated. The enormous illusory figure directly arrived in front of Hall Master Yun. It lifted its right leg high and carried a boundless force as it violently chopped down from above. By the time Hall Master Yun discovered it, it was already too late to avoid it. She could only use all her strength to meet it once again. There were a few consecutive intense collisions. Each of Xiaoyan's attacks was incomparably vicious and ruthless. Although Hall Master Yun still had quite a bit of energy left in her body, she could only endure with great difficulty under Xiaoyan's wild bombardment. This continued until Xiaoyan once again forced her back. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyan had already arrived above Hall Master Yun's head and stepped heavily on her. In a moment of desperation, Hall Master Yun only had time to raise her arms to block before Xiaoyan's foot heavily stepped on her thick arms. Bang! However, the moment the two collided, Hall Master Yun's expression changed drastically. An incomparably powerful force poured out like a dragon emerging from the sea. Even she was unable to block such a powerful force. As a result, Hall Master Yun's body was blown away without any resistance the moment Xiaoyan collided with it. Even the bones in her arms, which she had used to block Xiaoyan's attack, were broken. The Do Chi that had originally gathered around her body had completely collapsed from Xiaoyan's attack. Hall Master Yun did not have the ability to face Xiaoyan in a head-on clash. Xiaoyan was able to fight Hall Master Yun to a draw when she was at her peak. Given Hall Master Yun's current cultivation, she was at most at the advanced origin transformation stage after devouring all the experts in the city. If that was the case, Xiaoyan was completely confident that he could suppress her with the strength of the giant elephant skill. Xiaoyan did not hesitate after sending Hall Master Yun flying with a single strike. Before he could stabilize his body, he appeared once again. In the blink of an eye, he had already appeared directly below Hall Master Yun, who was rapidly descending. Xiaoyan twisted his body and all the strength in his body gathered on his right leg. The moment he bent his leg, it shot out like lightning and heavily stomped on Hall Master Yun's back. Ugh! Hall Master Yun's body arched upwards in an instant. His mouth was wide open as fresh blood spurted out. There was even a blood pillar that broke out of his chest. Behind it, countless remnant souls continuously charged out like ants leaving their nest. They turned into numerous crazy vengeful spirits that flew around Hall Master Yun's body. They continuously roared at him as though they were expressing their hatred for him. Many of them had even charged onto Hall Master Yun's body and forcefully tore off his flesh with their mouths before mercilessly swallowing it. Ah! Immediately miserable cries rang out in the sky once again. However, the target had suddenly changed this time. Hall Master Yun, who had caused all of this, had become the target of the vengeful spirit's bites and devouring. A pitiful expression involuntarily flashed across Xiaoyan's face as he watched the scene unfold before him. Although these vengeful spirits were not necessarily good people when they were alive, they should not have been involved in this war and should not have become the sacrificial lambs of this war. Unfortunately, Hall Master Yun's appearance had caused these people to become like this. However, from the looks of it, Hall Master Yun had paid the price for the evil he had sowed. You damn things, how dare you betray me? All of you die. Hall Master Yun, who had caught his breath, immediately turned his attention to the vengeful spirits that were constantly biting his body. After noticing that Xiaoyan did not attack again, Hall Master Yun's face was filled with rage as he twisted his body. His hands turned into claws and mercilessly swept across the heads of the vengeful spirits. In just a moment they had all been reduced to nothingness. After Hall Master Yun had forcefully killed the last vengeful spirit, his originally huge body had once again become thin and weak. After losing the replenishment of his energy from the vengeful spirits, Hall Master Yun's aura had once again become weak. As for using the devouring Yin Fiend like before, it was clearly impossible. He really did not have that much essence blood to use. Furthermore, with the little bit of energy left in his body, it was completely insufficient for him to use it again. Cough, cough, cough. Hall Master Yun coughed as his condition plummeted. Even standing in the air was extremely difficult, but even with that being the case, there was still a sliver of struggle in his eyes. He had never thought that he would lose to Xiaoyan with his cultivation at returnance, and he would lose so miserably. When Xiaoyan had completely erupted with his true strength earlier, he had already understood that Xiaoyan was not someone he could deal with. His plan this time had clearly failed. If he wanted to capture Xiaoyan, he could only send out even more powerful people from the hall, or even experts at returnance. Only then would he have a chance. He had to bring this news back. A thought flashed through Hall Master Yun's head. Afterwards, his resentful gaze landed on Xiaoyan again. He forced himself to endure. I admit that I have underestimated you. I will remember what happened today. I will definitely make you pay for it all in the future. With that, Hall Master Yun used the last sliver of energy in his body to form another seal. Ehe, do you think you can still leave today? Xiaoyan sneered when he heard that. He stared at Hall Master Yun coldly and sneered. I know that your spiritual strength is very powerful, but no matter how powerful your spiritual strength is, you can forget about keeping me here as long as it hasn't surpassed Class 7 with the secret techniques of my Ghost Hall. Hall Master Luo's body emitted a bang after she spoke. She suddenly exploded and turned into a strange black fog that swiftly spread. Do you really think you can escape? Xiaoyan coldly smiled and shook his head when he saw this. His hands swiftly formed a seal. At the same time, the heavenly flame, which had been withdrawn into his body, once again charged out of his body. Moreover, it swiftly surrounded the cluster of black fog in the sky, which had yet to scatter. The vicious heavenly flame rapidly withdrew. Very soon, Hall Master Yun's figure reappeared with a miserable howl. However, this time he had been controlled by Xiaoyan's heavenly flame. Chapter 1108. How can this be? Hall Master Yun, who had been surrounded and controlled by the heavenly flame, had a physical body that had been destroyed in the explosion earlier. At this moment, only a wisp of her soul remained. When the heavenly flame shrank, her soul was grabbed by Xiaoyan's hand. Humph! Do you think you're the only ones who understand me? I've seen your little escape techniques countless times. The best weapon to deal with you damn things is a heavenly flame. Your strange techniques are nothing in front of a heavenly flame. You think too highly of yourself if you think you can escape. Only after Xiaoyan's words faded did Hall Master Yun realize in horror that his escape technique, which he thought was unbreakable, had already been seen through by Xiaoyan. However, what surprised him the most was that Xiaoyan, who had also exhausted his Genesis Qi, still had the ability to circulate his Genesis Qi. Why? Are you curious? As if seeing through Hall Master Yun's doubts, Xiaoyan grinned and teased, "You seem to have forgotten that I'm an alchemist. Looks like you've really forgotten that I'm an alchemist. Not only is refining medicinal pills my specialty, eating medicinal pills is also my specialty." Hall Master Yun immediately understood in his heart the moment these words were spoken. No wonder Xiaoyan was still able to maneuver his Genesis Qi at this moment. No wonder this fellow in front of him became increasingly valiant as he fought without showing the slightest sign of fatigue. It was because of the medicinal pill's strength. Unfortunately, it was already too late by the time he understood this point. Since he had already been captured by Xiaoyan, it would be easy for him to kill him. However, contrary to his expectations, Xiaoyan took out a jade bottle and sealed Hall Master Yun inside with the help of a heavenly flame. He then casually tossed the bottle into his storage ring and turned to look at the other origin transformation experts' battle. At this moment, Lung Bingshuang's group had already lost an origin transformation expert, so the heaven-piercing giant ape had quickly gone to support Kai, and Murong Xian. Lung Bingshuang and the North King both held the upper hand, so there was no need to worry. Hence, Xiaoyan's gaze shifted to the other side where the 100 Do Di were still locked in an intense battle. Compared to the battle on Lung Bingshuang's side, the situation here was much more stalemate. After all, they were all Do Di experts and there were many of them. Even though the Xiao clan's side held the upper hand, it was very difficult for them to end the battle in a short period of time. If there was no absolute power suppressing them, the battle would definitely drag on. An icy cold expression immediately surfaced on Xiaoyan's face when he saw this scene. His body moved and a huge illusory figure rapidly flashed through the sky. It quickly charged into the group of people, charging left and right as it swiftly defeated the dozen or so Do Di experts from the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley. When everyone saw that Xiaoyan had actually killed over a dozen Do Di experts in the blink of an eye, a dense fear swiftly rose from the bottom of their hearts. There were even some people who immediately thought of fleeing when they saw Xiaoyan attack. On the other hand, the people from the Xiao clan were surprised when they saw Xiaoyan display his invincible might. Numerous gazes filled with shock and respect landed on Xiaoyan in an orderly manner. Afterward, under Xiaoyan's lead, all the Do Di experts from the Xiao clan side moved together and defeated the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley. In just a few minutes, all the Do Di experts on the other side had either died or fled. In the blink of an eye, the entire Qin Wasteland Maze Valley was completely deserted. Other than the valley chief, Qin Shua, and the other two origin transformation experts, everyone else had been finished off by Xiaoyan. In other words, from this moment on, only Qin Shua and the other two were left in the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley. However, after this battle, the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley would definitely be removed from the western region. The Xiao clan would become another huge existence in the western region. Very soon, under the continuous attacks of Kai and the others, the two origin transformation experts from the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley were defeated one after another. They lost the ability to fight and fell into the city below. At this moment, other than Yi Luotian and Qin Shua, there were only the two origin transformation experts from the Ghost Hall who were bitterly holding on. This continued until a certain moment when the two of them were finally unable to endure the attacks from Xiaoyan and the others. Just as they wanted to flee, one of them was killed by the sky-piercing ape. The other person took advantage of the self-destruction of the sky-piercing ape before he died to break out of the encirclement and quickly flee the Sand River. Just when Kair and the others wanted to give chase, they were stopped by Xiaoyan. Soon after, their gazes landed on the last two people. When Lung Bingshuang and the Northern King had retreated a certain distance away, Xiaoyan's group of 7 origin transformation experts blocked the two of them from all directions, completely surrounding them. Yi Luotian and Qin Shua could not help but glance at each other in despair as they faced the encirclement of 7 origin transformation experts. They had never thought that the final outcome would be like this. Everything they had planned out, including the people from the Ghost Hall, should have been a perfect plan. However, they had never thought that even with the assistance of a returnance expert, they would still fail to deal with Xiaoyan. What do we do? It's basically impossible to break out of this encirclement. Looking around, Xianxia pitifully discovered that no matter which direction or angle he looked from, the other party had no blind spots at all. Could it be that they could only be trapped here and die? Valley Master, we have no path of retreat now that things have developed to this point. Let's risk it all. As long as we break out, we'll still have a chance. A gleam of light flashed in the depths of Yi Luotian's eyes when he heard Xianxia's words. Xianxia clenched his teeth with great dissatisfaction when he heard this. Not only had he lost 2 origin transformation experts in today's battle, but he had also lost the entire Qin Wasteland Mysterious Valley. This battle could be said to be a complete defeat. However, it was also because of this that he felt even more dissatisfied in his heart. If he could charge out and leave this place, he would definitely take revenge for today's grudge to Xiaoyan in the future. However, just as Xianxia was gritting his teeth and pondering, a hand suddenly pierced into his lower abdomen. At the same time, a medicinal pill was also placed in his stomach. The moment Xianxia raised his head, he saw Yi Luotian's savage face. He had never imagined that Yi Luotian, who was on the same boat as him, would actually attack him at such a critical moment. Valley Master, since you're going to die anyway, why not grant me my wish and use your death to keep me safe? Isn't that even better? Although Xianxia did not understand the meaning behind Yi Luotian's words, he could clearly feel a strange plant rapidly growing in the vortex in his body. He was also extremely alarmed to discover that the Genesis Qi in his body was no longer under his control. With a thought from Yi Luotian, all the remaining Genesis Qi in the vortex in Xianxia's body began to frantically search. From the looks of it, it was about to self-destruct. Unfortunately, even if it was going to self-destruct, it was not Xianxia's own will. Not good, retreat quickly. He's going to self-destruct. On the other side, Xiaoyan's group finally recovered from their shock. In an instant, the few people present did not have the time to do anything else. Their expressions changed drastically as their bodies swiftly pulled back. At the same time, the remaining Genesis Qi in their bodies poured out without any reservation. They intertwined with each other and completely sealed the space where the two of them were located. Then, boom! An earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded. An extremely frightening energy storm also swept apart in an instant. The powerful strength violently smashed onto the energy barrier that Xiaoyan and the others had formed together. The expressions of the 7 of them turned pale at the same time. Their faces were filled with solemnness. After a couple of breaths, one could hear a ka-cha sound. The energy barrier that the 7 of them had formed together was immediately shattered. The remaining strength also sent the 7 of them flying in an instant. Soon after, before the energy storm in the sky had completely dissipated, a miserable figure covered in blood suddenly staggered out from within. Moreover, he hurriedly flew out of the Sand River shop without stopping. This person was Yi Luotian. Yi Luotian's face involuntarily revealed an extremely cold smile as he glanced at Xiaoyan's group, who had been sent flying a great distance away. Although he had paid quite a great price this time around, he had finally been saved. Without Xiaoyan's group blocking him, he could safely leave this place. At the same time, Xiaoyan and the others unwillingly wanted to chase after Yi Luotian when they saw that he was about to escape. Unfortunately, the Genesis Qi in their bodies had been completely exhausted in the energy storm earlier and they did not have the strength to chase after him. They could only watch helplessly as Yi Luotian left. God damn it. Xiaoyan cursed in his heart. He had never imagined that Yi Luotian would be so vicious and merciless as to not even spare his own partners. Just when Xiaoyan's group thought that Yi Luotian would flee, over 20 elite Do-Di rushed over from all directions a short distance in front of Yi Luotian. They blocked Yi Luotian's path. All of these people were elite Do-Di who had been imprisoned by Yi Luotian in the western call of Flat Mountain. Chapter 1109. With a series of painful cries, Yi Luotian was finally killed by the encirclement of the Do-Di. This person who had single-handedly caused all of this to happen, who could be described as a great traitor, had ultimately suffered the consequences of his own actions. With Yi Luotian's death, the battle at Shahapu could be said to have come to an end. The Qin Wasteland's Maze Valley, a great overlord of the western region, was destroyed just like that. Many of the subordinate organizations under it had ended as a result. Not only had the Shao clan defeated the Qin Wasteland's Maze Valley in this battle, but they had also killed Yi Luotian. To Xiaoyan, the most important thing was that they had successfully captured the Hall Master of the Ghost Hall. Xiaoyan was certain that this person was a returnance expert. He was definitely the leader of all the ghost halls in the western region. Since Hall Master Luo had been dealt with by him, the others were even less of a problem. In other words, even the Ghost Hall could no longer pose any threat to him in the current western region. The battle ended. The battle ended. Other than the origin transformation expert from the Ghost Hall who had taken the opportunity to flee, all the experts at the origin transformation realm and above from the Qin Wasteland Maze Valley had been killed. The Do Di had even killed dozens of people. This battle result could be considered terrifying. Of course, although the Qin Wasteland's Maze Valley had been completely dealt with, the people from the Shao clan had also suffered quite a few casualties. However, overall this was only a drop in the ocean. Afterwards, Xiaoyan and the others relied on medicinal pills to recover some of their strength. After cleaning up the battlefield, they decided to rest in the city below. Everyone present had expended quite a lot of energy in this battle. They could no longer endure any more exhaustion. What they needed the most at this moment was rest. Ignoring the others, at the very least, Xiaoyan was completely exhausted. During the battle earlier, all the nerves in his body had been stretched taut. The strength in his body had reached a high explosive level. Using it at such a high intensity for a long period of time had already exhausted him. He was already extremely lucky that he had not fainted immediately after the battle had ended. While all the members of Shao Gate were resting in the city, on the other side, a group of black-robed human figures suddenly appeared in front of the expert from the Ghost Hall, who had escaped from the tiger's mouth with great difficulty. They swiftly surrounded him. Seeing these human figures that had suddenly appeared, a pair of scarlet eyes under the black fog involuntarily revealed a deep fear. With his strength, he was actually unable to discover when these people had appeared. This also meant that the cultivations of this group of people were at least 9-star Do Di or above. It was even extremely likely that this was a group made up of origin transformation experts. How dare you block my path, be as of them? In his current state. Cuckoo the Ghost Hall. Who on the continent doesn't know about it? However, the people we are killing are people from the Ghost Hall. The leader of the black-robed people coldly laughed when he heard the words that carried a warning from the black fog. He immediately raised his head, revealing a pair of golden eyes under it. He stared at the people from the Ghost Hall on the other side and coldly said, "Go." His voice had just sounded when the two black-robed people beside him suddenly flashed. In the blink of an eye, they had already appeared in front of the cluster of black fog. Two hands were extended from under their sleeves. A flickering golden light swiftly rotated in their palms before they heavily slammed down on the black fog in front of them. The sudden attack of the other party caused the person in the black fog to be startled. He was just about to withdraw when he was suddenly horrified to discover that a golden light formation had unknowingly formed under his feet. His body was firmly locked onto by the light formation. He was unable to dodge. While being controlled, the pair of scarlet eyes in the black fog finally noticed the special badge on the chests of the two black-robed people in front of him in an instant. In an instant, the black-robed person's heart was filled with endless fear. He could not help but involuntarily cry out, "You are the heavens." However, before the words could be completely spat out from his mouth, the two hands had already landed on his head. In the blink of an eye, he was killed on the spot. After killing the origin transformation expert from the Ghost Hall with a single strike, one of the black-robed people extended his hand once again. He took out a strangely shaped mask from the black fog that had yet to disperse and handed it over to the black-robed person who was the leader. "Let's go. With this ghost face, it will be easier for us to report when we return. Otherwise, the higher-ups will definitely grumble once they see that we did not take action." Putting away the mask, a helpless sigh was emitted from under the black robe. Immediately, he led the group of people and quickly disappeared from this place. On the other side, two human figures swiftly left the city one after the other in Shahapu. When they left, a few storage rings had mysteriously appeared in their hands. In the blink of an eye, half a month had already passed. Following the end of the battle at Shahapu, the Qin Wasteland Labyrinth quickly disappeared from the western region. Even the people and things related to the Qin Wasteland Labyrinth also disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, at the same time, news related to the Shao clan also quickly spread throughout the western region within half a month. The end of one generation of power also simultaneously announced the rise of another great power. The Shao clan would certainly become another colossus in the western region. Even though he had yet to do so, in reality, in the hearts of everyone in the western region, they already understood this point. Of course, as the name of the Shao Gate became even more popular, there was no doubt that the sect master of the Shao Gate, Xiaoyan, had become an origin transformation expert at such a young age. Not only did he possess a great cultivation, he had also eliminated two great disasters for the western region, unknowingly saving the lives of countless people. Currently, he was the idol of many people in the western region. There were even quite a few people who treated Xiaoyan as the person they chased after for the rest of their lives. As a result, they madly cultivated for him. It was also because of these various reasons that the sect masters of no less than 100 large and small factions in the western region gathered in the Shilin mountain range in just half a month. Their goal was to join the Xiao Gate and personally see Xiaoyan. Even when the Qin wasteland Maze Valley was threatened with death, there were not many factions who agreed with such a scene. It was also because the leaders of these factions had all gathered in the Shilin mountain range that all the magical beasts in the Shilin mountain range became restless. If it were not for Leng Bingshuang's appearance to suppress them, the leaders of these factions would not have been able to enter the Shilin mountain range so easily no matter how powerful they were. Although there were indeed quite a few leaders of factions who had entered the Shilin mountain range, only a third of the total number of people managed to remain after passing through the various obstacles set up by Leng Bingshuang and the little fairy doctor. This caused the people from the other factions to be rather unwilling, but they could only leave in disappointment in the end. As for those people who had successfully stayed behind, they did not succeed in seeing Xiaoyan as they had imagined. The little fairy doctor and Leng Bingshuang's answers were unanimous in the face of their questions. The latter was in a retreat and no one knew when he would exit his retreat. With regards to this, the leaders of those factions could only helplessly withdraw their curious thoughts. Finally, they left the Shilin mountain range after the arrangements of the little fairy doctor and the rest. This was after all the territory of the magical beast. Once a large number of humans gathered here for a long period of time, those magical beasts would inevitably become restless even with the suppression of Leng Bingshuang. After dismissing these incessant fellows, the little fairy doctor and Leng Bingshuang quickly dismissed Lu Cheng and the rest. These fellows' injuries had already completely recovered in half a month's time. The reason why they continued to stay here was undoubtedly because of the reward that Xiaoyan had promised them. The little fairy doctor and Leng Bingshuang were naturally very clear about this point. At the beginning, when they were asked to leave, these fellows were all unwilling, afraid that Xiaoyan would get rid of them after they had outlived their usefulness. They were only willing to leave when Leng Bingshuang and the towering giant ape pressured them with their imposing manner. Of course, before leaving, the little fairy doctor had specially sworn on the lightning penalty oath. Seeing that the little fairy doctor was actually willing to swear on the lightning penalty oath for Xiaoyan, even with Leng Bingshuang's character, she could not help but feel a little surprised in her heart. At the same time, there was a trace of indescribable jealousy and unwillingness at the bottom of her heart. It was as if the person who should swear on the lightning penalty oath should be her. Following the retreat of the various factions, the Shilin mountain range temporarily regained its peace. Although the injuries that the Do Di had suffered had all been healed, as origin transformation experts, the injuries within their bodies were not as simple as they appeared on the surface. They needed a large amount of time to completely recover. Therefore, in the following period of time, everyone entered their own secluded cultivation. Only Murong Xian rested for a moment after the big battle ended before hurrying back to the clan. In the blink of an eye, another 2 months had passed. Leng Bingshuang and the rest had already exited their secluded cultivation. However, they still had not seen Xiaoyan appear. This involuntarily caused them to feel a little worried. However, at this very moment Xiaoyan was no longer in the Shilin mountain range. On the contrary, a few days before Leng Bingshuang and the rest had exited their secluded cultivation, he had arrived in the western wastelands without anyone knowing. Xiaoyan had already awakened from his secluded cultivation a few days ago. This time, not only had he recovered from all his injuries, even his cultivation had completely stabilized at the late origin transformation realm. His personal battle prowess had also increased. Although the increase could not be seen right now, as long as the day came when he truly needed to use it, this strength would bring endless benefits to Xiaoyan. After Xiaoyan had awakened, he was in no hurry to appear. Instead, he took out the jade bottle that contained the soul of Hall Master Yun. After a long period of interrogation, this fellow finally revealed the locations of the few ghost halls in the western wastelands. Unfortunately, this fellow did not know any of the detailed information regarding Sunair. Right now, Xiaoyan had come to the western wastelands for the sake of destroying the branches of the ghost halls that had been established here. According to the information provided by Hall Master Yun, Xiaoyan very quickly arrived at a barren region called the Sand Lake Swamp. The environment of this place was just like its name. All that entered one's eyes was a vast expanse of yellow sand. However, what was different from other places was that the sand here did not form sand dunes like other places. Instead, it was as calm and quiet as the surface of a lake. A cold wind that was filled with sand blew past the sky. Xiaoyan could clearly see that the surface of the sand lake in front of him actually had a layer of ripple that was just like the surface of a lake. This sand lake is really strange. Upon seeing such a strange scene, even with Xiaoyan's experience, he could not help but exclaim in surprise. In order to satisfy the curiosity in his heart, Xiaoyan even shot out an energy pillar with his hand and shot it directly at the sand lake in front of him. However, immediately after, a strange scene appeared once again. The energy pillar that Xiaoyan shot out seemed to have hit water as it deeply sank into the sand lake. It even stirred up a wave that was completely formed from sand. Upon seeing this scene, Xiaoyan's heart was even more shocked by the strangeness of this sand lake. It was no wonder that the ghost hall would choose to set up camp in such a place. With such a strange geographical environment, it was likely that no one would be willing to come here. Hence, this place had become the best place for them to set up camp. After sweeping across the surface of the sand lake for a few minutes, the sight in front of Xiaoyan gradually darkened. Immediately after, a towering mountain-like pitch-black building appeared in front of Xiaoyan. This was also the location of the first ghost hall that Hall Master Yun had given him. Without any hesitation, Xiaoyan forcefully broke the special restriction at the entrance in a few moves. Subsequently, he charged into the hall. At the same time that he alarmed all the experts in the hall, he also killed all the people from the ghost hall that he could see in the shortest amount of time. Even those who he could not see but could sense with his spiritual strength, were all killed by him. Faced with Xiaoyan's attack, these so-called experts from the ghost hall could not even block a single punch from him. In a short few minutes, all the experts from the ghost hall within the large hall had been killed by Xiaoyan. Even the pitch-black magnificent building had been forcefully razed to the ground by Xiaoyan with a single punch. In the end, the ruins of the large hall that had lost all its support sank into the sand lake. After that, it was the other two ghost halls in the other two areas. In the next few days, Xiaoyan had practically walked through the entire western wastelands. The other two halls had also been completely destroyed by Xiaoyan using the same method. In this way, all the remaining ghost hall forces in the western wastelands had been completely cleaned up by Xiaoyan. After settling these matters, Xiaoyan naturally returned to the Shilin mountain range. However, it was also at this moment that Murong Xian, who had originally left earlier, suddenly returned and once again arrived at the Shilin mountain range. This time, his target was Lung Bingshuang. Chapter 11:10. In the Shilin mountain range, when Lung Bingshuang found out the reason and purpose of Murong Xian's visit, an ice-cold murderous intent immediately surfaced on her beautiful face. Her two fair, jade-like hands involuntarily clenched tightly. In her heart, a fury that had been suppressed for many years once again rose. They actually have the face to come here. Standing on top of the cliff, Lung Bingshuang's beautiful eyes stared intently at the empty space in front of her. The aura in her body churned, and even the energy between heaven and earth began to riot uncontrollably. The mountain peak she stood on trembled slightly, and an extremely terrifying aura and pressure had invisibly enveloped the entire Shilin mountain range. This also caused countless magical beasts in the forest to curl up on the ground in extreme fear at this moment. Their mouths emitted low whimpers indicating the fear in their hearts. At this very moment, even Tianying and the others were intimidated by this terrifying pressure. Their bodies trembled as they knelt on a distant mountain peak, their hearts filled with endless fear. Even Murong Xian, who had a very good relationship with Lung Bingshuang, turned pale in the face of Lung Bingshuang's pressure. His body involuntarily half-knelt on the ground as he revealed a respectful expression to Lung Bingshuang. Meanwhile, outside the Shilin mountain range, Xiaoyan had rushed over from the western wilderness. However, as soon as he arrived, he immediately sensed something strange in the Shilin mountain range. "This is Lung Bingshuang. Did something happen?" Xiaoyan's expression immediately changed drastically when he sensed the anger that filled the qi. Could it be that someone had come to the Shilin mountain range to create trouble during these few days that he had been away? "You're courting death." With this thought, killing intent abruptly erupted in Xiaoyan's heart. With a low roar, the Genesis Qi in his body frantically circulated. The Sky Extinction Step and Wing Elephant art were instantly activated to the limit. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the outskirts of the Shilin mountain range. "My lord, they have come to the western region this time with the intention of bringing you back to the clan. It seems that they hope that you can acknowledge your roots and return to the clan instead of continuing to wander outside. Father and I have discussed this and we both believe that rather than staying in this desolate western region, it is better for you to return to the clan. After all, that is your true home." After a long while, when Lung Bingshuang gradually restrained her emotions, Murong Xian cautiously opened his mouth. However, the instant the words left his mouth, Lung Bingshuang's extremely cold gaze instantly landed on his body. You're really stupid. What real home? Have you forgotten how they mercilessly drove us out of the clan and killed so many of our clansmen? Now you're actually advising me to go back? You've really disappointed me. A bitter expression involuntarily appeared on Murong Xian's face. He of course knew that Lung Bingshuang would not agree to return no matter what, and he certainly did not want to influence Lung Bingshuang's choice. However, he had no choice but to do so. Those people were threatening him with the lives of their clan. They would either bring Lung Bingshuang to them or erase their entire clan from the history of the continent. Of course, other than today, the last time he came to the Shilin mountain range was also for the same purpose. However, at that time he was unable to speak because of the Shao Gate and the Qin Desolate Maze Valley. However, it was different this time. Those people had already given the order that if they were unable to bring Lung Bingshuang back, they would start a massacre in the clan. As a last resort, Murong Xian had rushed to the Shilin mountain range in an attempt to invite Lung Bingshuang back. Unfortunately, he had already expected Lung Bingshuang's unruly attitude. Before he left, his father had already told him that if Lung Bingshuang was unwilling, he should not force her. Furthermore, he could not use the clan's crisis as an excuse to tie her up. Hence, after hearing Lung Bingshuang's reply, Murong Xian smiled bitterly. He bowed to Lung Bingshuang and turned around to leave. As the clan's young master, he must stay with the clan no matter what when the clan was facing such a crisis. The only thing that made him feel fortunate was that Murong Xianxian was not in the clan. Otherwise, if the latter was also involved, he would not be satisfied even if he were to die. However, just as Murong Xian was about to turn around and leave, a sharp rushing wind sound was heard. In an instant, a ghost-like human figure suddenly appeared in front of him. A hand claw that was filled with power almost landed on his throat. Fortunately, this person had recognized the former's identity the moment he appeared. Otherwise, Murong Xian would have died here today even before he could return to the clan. Huff! In an instant, Murong Xian's clothes were completely drenched in cold sweat. When he raised his head with a heart filled with fear, he only saw a young face that was covered in sweat. At this moment, the young man was looking at him with a face that did not know whether to laugh or cry. Murong Xian's mouth was still heavily panting. His face was filled with joy and helplessness. Xiao Yan did not expect that the fierce battle that he had imagined would actually appear in such an awkward manner in front of him. Withdrawing his hand, Xiao Yan revealed an awkward smile. At the same time, the aura of death that enveloped Murong Xian's heart also quietly dissipated at this moment. In that instant just now, he did not even sense a trace of Xiao Yan's aura. He did not even know when Xiao Yan had appeared in front of him. The other party's speed had actually reached such a level. At the same time, Lung Bingshuang's gaze also fell on Xiao Yan. Seeing that the latter had actually returned from outside, Lung Bingshuang's eyes were filled with shock. At the same time, the anger in her heart also unknowingly calmed down. This point was also clearly noticed by Xiao Yan, who was paying attention to the former's emotions. He immediately turned his head slightly and frowned at Lung Bingshuang. He asked curiously, "What's wrong? Did something happen?" Hearing this, Lung Bingshuang's pair of beautiful eyes flashed slightly. However, she avoided Xiao Yan's gaze and quickly left the place. Only Xiao Yan and Murong Xian were left at the original spot. Since Lung Bingshuang did not say anything, Xiao Yan could only turn his gaze back to the person in front of him. When the latter saw this, his expression could not help but be slightly startled. Looking at Xiao Yan's curious eyes, a strange feeling involuntarily rose in Murong Xian's heart. Perhaps the Xiao Yan in front of him could help him. Although this feeling came abruptly without any warning or reason, at this point, Lung Bingshuang's matter was already related to the rise and fall of their entire clan. How could he care so much? After which he told Xiao Yan the purpose of his trip. However, when Murong Xian spat out the first sentence, the expression on Xiao Yan's face suddenly froze. "You mean the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe?" Chapter 11:11. A long while later, Murong Xian finally told Xiao Yan the reason why he had come to the Shilin mountain range this time around. During this entire process, Xiao Yan's expression was solemn. This was especially the case toward the end when his face even revealed a dark and solemn expression. The Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe is one of the supreme overlords of the magical beast world. Why would they look for her? After listening to Murong Xian's narration, Xiao Yan pondered for a long while before opening his mouth to speak. Compared to Murong Xian's narration, Xiao Yan was more curious as to why they would be interested in Lung Bingshuang, a woman who lived far away in the western region. When Xiao Yan's words came out, Murong Xian's expression immediately froze. In the blink of an eye he regained his senses. After thinking about it carefully, Xiaoyan's question was not strange at all. If there was nothing special about Lung Bingshuang, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe would not have looked for her. After hesitating for a long while, Murong Xian raised his eyes again and stared at Xiaoyan in front of him. He slowly said, "Mr. Xiaoyan, I'm afraid that you will be shocked when you hear the first sentence I'm about to say." Xiaoyan narrowed his eyes. His heart was filled with doubt. At the same time he became even more curious about Lung Bingshuang's true identity. In fact, Lung Bingshuang is also a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Bus. Murong Xian's words were like an invisible bomb that instantly exploded in Xiaoyan's mind. His words were astonishing, and a shocking storm raged wildly in Xiaoyan's mind. After a long while, Xiaoyan raised his head with an expression of disbelief. His gaze was firmly fixed on Murong Xian, as if he was afraid that he had misheard. When he saw Murong Xian nod his head in affirmation, his entire body suddenly froze, as if he had turned into a statue in an instant. Xiaoyan had never thought that Lung Bingshuang, who lived in the barren western region, would be a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. However, since that was the case, how could she possibly stay here? According to Xiaoyan's knowledge, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had always had strict rules. It was very rare for the tribe members to leave the tribe. Even if they died, most of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe members had to die in the tribe. Even if they died in the outside world, they had to bring their corpses back. However, why was Lung Bingshuang, a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, living in the barren western region of the continent? Seeing Xiaoyan's surprised and suspicious expression, Murong Xian could only helplessly sigh. He raised his head and asked Xiaoyan, "What's the matter? I wonder if Mr. Xiaoyan has heard of the Ice Phoenix?" Hearing this, Xiaoyan was slightly startled. In the end he shook his head awkwardly. Even with his experience he had never heard of the Ice Phoenix. Seeing this, Murong Xian smiled bitterly and nodded. Lung Bingshuang is from the Ice Phoenix tribe. Lung Bingshuang belongs to the Ice Phoenix clan. Back then the Ice Phoenix was one of the two great clans of the Heaven Demon Phoenix clan. Then Murong Xian told Xiaoyan about the Ice Phoenix tribe and Lung Bingshuang's exact identity. It turned out that in the ancient times, there were two tribes in the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. One of them was the Fire Phoenix tribe, which was the current Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. The other was the Ice Phoenix tribe. Although the two tribes were both Heaven Demon Phoenixes, the relationship between the two tribes was not friendly. The continuous war caused the two tribes to completely break apart. After countless years, the Ice Phoenix tribe was finally defeated. Less than 10 people from the originally huge tribe were killed in the end. Even the subordinate tribes behind them were implicated and were almost exterminated. In the end, if the remaining experts of the Ice Phoenix tribe did not save them at the cost of their lives, the subordinate tribes behind them would have been completely exterminated. This subordinate tribe was Murong Xian's tribe, the Cyan Phoenix tribe. Under the lead of the few remaining experts of the Ice Phoenix tribe, the Cyan Phoenix tribe fled the central region and came to the desolate western region to settle down. After countless years, only Lung Bingshuang was left of the original Ice Phoenix tribe. As for the Cyan Phoenix tribe, although the tribe still existed, its foundation and strength were no longer as strong as before. They could only submit themselves to the depths of the western wastelands and continue to guard the place where the experts of the Ice Phoenix tribe had fallen. Now, the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had once again descended and used the fate of the Cyan Phoenix tribe as a bargaining chip to threaten them. They demanded that they must bring Lung Bingshuang back and leave with them. However, Murong Xian was also clear about Lung Bingshuang's character. For the fate of the entire tribe, he had no choice but to come here. However, this outcome did not seem to be important. Huff. After exhaling a long breath, Xiaoyan nodded with a calm expression. He extended his hand and gently patted Murong Xian's shoulder. He smiled and said, "Don't worry, she will go, right?" As his voice fell, Xiaoyan's gaze turned and looked at the void not far away from them. When Xiaoyan looked over, the void that was originally empty suddenly distorted slightly. Then, the graceful figure of Lung Bingshuang appeared in front of them again. She glanced at Xiaoyan, then her gaze fell on Murong Xian. She frowned and said in a deep voice, "Why didn't you say such a big thing just now?" Hearing this, Murong Xian's face suddenly revealed an embarrassed expression. After a long while, he said helplessly, "It was my father. He only asked me to ask if you are willing to go back. If you are not willing, then you must not be forced to go back for any reason. He said that the tribe is small, and your choice is the most important." Ridiculous. What do you mean the tribe is small? Do you want me to feel guilty for the rest of my life? And those guys, they are a group of despicable people. In order to achieve their goals, they actually use such despicable means. How despicable. Now you and I will go to the Western Wasteland region. This king wants to see how arrogant and despotic they are. After speaking, Leng Bingshuang was about to move, but she saw Xiaoyan's figure move and follow closely beside her. What are you doing? Leng Bingshuang frowned and said. Haha, someone wants to take my woman away. Then I have to go and meet them personally. In response, Xiaoyan curled his lips and smiled. Just as Leng Bingshuang was about to flare up, under the latter's stunned gaze, he snatched her jade-like hand and held it in his palm. He even stared at her with a domineering expression. In an instant, for some reason, the anger that should have risen in Leng Bingshuang's heart was extinguished the moment it was grabbed by Xiaoyan's large hand. She did not even dare to look directly at Xiaoyan's eyes. Behind the two of them, Murong Xian was also extremely shocked as he looked at the two people in front of him. This was especially so when he saw the crimson redness involuntarily appear on Leng Bingshuang's pretty face. His heart immediately seemed to have understood something. He opened his mouth but was speechless. He could only quietly follow behind the two of them. The group swiftly left the Shilin mountain range and swiftly headed towards the Western Wasteland region. Tianying and the rest exchanged glances with each other when they saw Xiaoyan and Leng Bingshuang leave. They shrugged their shoulders and left one after another. At the same time, on another mountain peak, the white-dressed little fairy doctor was also watching Xiaoyan and Leng Bingshuang leave with a complicated expression. Chapter 11-12. 2 days later, Xiaoyan's group, led by Murong Xian, arrived at the depths of the Western Wilderness region. They arrived outside a city called Blue Eagle City. When Xiaoyan heard the words Blue Eagle City, his mind immediately recalled the scene when Murong Qianshan had been taken away back then. That middle-aged man had clearly told him about the Blue Eagle City before he left. It was just that it was unexpected that the middle-aged man's casual words back then had actually come true. Outside Blue Eagle City, Xiaoyan and the other two hovered in the air and looked into the distance. Although they were outside the city, they could clearly see that in the depths of Blue Eagle City, there were 3 gigantic birds circling in the sky above a splendid building. Although these gigantic birds were not heaven demon phoenixes, Xiaoyan could tell that these magical beasts were not ordinary magical beasts. Furthermore, just from the pressure that enveloped the entire Blue Eagle City, these 3 magical beasts were probably of an extremely high rank. These 3 fellows are from a subsidiary tribe of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. They are called goshawks. During the war between the 2 tribes, they did not even have the right to participate in it. They always followed behind my tribe. Who would have thought that they would have developed to this stage now? When he finished speaking, Murong Xian could not help but reveal an unresigned expression. Thinking back, his Qinghuan tribe and its glory were extremely important even in the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. Who would have thought that they would be suppressed by these bastards now? Let's go and meet them. In response, Xiaoyan could only sigh softly in his heart. He then gently waved his hand, indicating for Murong Xian to lead the way. Xiaoyan held Leng Bingshuang's hand, who had an unnatural expression. The 3 of them quickly entered the city and flew towards the city center. Very quickly, the 3 figures arrived at the center of the city. When they raised their heads, they saw the 3 gigantic beasts circling in the sky. Huge shadows descended from the sky and enveloped the entire city. It was like a thick layer of dark clouds. Combined with the heavy pressure, one could not help but feel an extremely heavy atmosphere. This is the Goshawk Castle. The clansmen of my clan usually live here. Other than some necessary clan properties and going out to gain experience, many people live and cultivate here since they were young. Of course, we also have our own space, so what we know and learn won't be any less than the people in the outside world. Murong Xian wore a smile as he spoke to the surprised Xiaoyan. As for Leng Bingshuang, she indifferently glanced at the huge ancient castle below. A nostalgic look flashed across the depths of her beautiful eyes. After so many years, she had finally returned to this place. Xiaoyan's heart did not feel anything strange when he first saw this ancient castle outside the city earlier. It was merely a little more majestic than the buildings he had seen in the past. However, when he arrived at the top of the Goshawk Castle at this moment, he was shocked to realize that what he had seen earlier was merely the tip of the iceberg of this ancient castle. The huge ancient castle was like a strange city that could not be seen inside. As far as the eye could see, there were no main doors or entrances. The only thing that could lead to the inside was the door-like windows that were set up at the top of the ancient castle. Only from there could one reach the outside of the ancient castle. It was the first time that Xiaoyan had seen such a strange building. Haha, Mr. Xiaoyan, there is no need to be surprised. My Cyan Phoenix tribe has always been good at flying. Those structures that are suitable for humans do not exist for us. However, like this, on one hand, it can ensure the safety of our tribe members, and it can also be used for our tribe, saving us some unnecessary trouble. Only when he heard this did Xiaoyan understand. At the same time, he felt some admiration for this tribe. Even though he had already transformed into a human, they were still able to follow their own wishes and set up their own rules without being affected by the majority. Such an unruly tribe was really surprising. At the same time, in the guest hall of the Goshawk Castle, a few middle-aged men were smiling as they chatted with the people sitting opposite them. Their words were rather polite, but there was a faint smell of gunpowder in the air. Patriarch Murong, young master, has already left for almost 5 days. Why hasn't he returned yet? Could it be that he couldn't bring anyone back, so he ran away himself? On the left side of the hall, a yellow-robed old man at the very front raised his head and stared at the middle-aged man on the main seat as he spoke with a slightly heavy tone. The middle-aged man was the current patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix clan, Murong Sun. The white-haired young man to the side immediately frowned when those words were spoken. A look of displeasure quickly flitted across his icy blue eyes. At the same time, the middle-aged man on the main seat also noticed the change in the young man's expression. His eyes spun as he immediately said, "Elder Xianxia, don't worry. Please don't be in such a hurry, Elder Xianxia. Lung Bingshuang's location is quite a distance away from my castle. Even though Xian'er has reached the origin transformation stage, he will still need some time to reach her. Therefore, I hope that the two of you can wait patiently for a little while longer. Since clan leader Murong has said so, we will wait for a while longer. However, I must remind clan leader Murong that Lung Bingshuang is a member of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. The reason why we have come here is because our tribe values this matter greatly. They have ordered me to bring Lung Bingshuang back to acknowledge her ancestors. Therefore, if young clan leader is unable to bring her back, I'm afraid that you will have to bear the consequences." Hearing the words spat out from the mouth of the middle-aged man on the head seat, the old man sitting below the stage hesitated for a moment before speaking with a threatening tone. "Of course. Since Xian'er is personally handling this matter, it will definitely be handled properly. Don't worry, Elder Xianxia. However, there's still something I don't understand. I hope Elder Xianxia can tell me. Why did the Heaven Demon Phoenix clan suddenly request for Lung Bingshuang to return to acknowledge her ancestors?" Murong Sun's question caused old Xianxia's expression to instantly change. Dissatisfaction immediately emerged on his face. However, before he could speak, the white-haired young man next to him suddenly sneered and said, "That's right. It seems that the Cyan Phoenix clan has left the Heaven Demon Phoenix clan for too long. You've actually forgotten about this. Could it be that you don't know that Lung Bingshuang's ancestor had an expert with an extreme Yin body? Although her ancestor's cultivation talent wasn't outstanding, it said that after they successfully controlled the extreme Yin body through the clan's secret technique, they became one of the few experts in the Ice Phoenix clan. However, for some unknown reason, the extreme Yin body affected the next generation, causing all of the direct descendants of her branch to possess the extreme Yin body. Looking at the time, the extreme Yin body hidden in Lung Bingshuang's body should be nearing maturity. The reason why we're bringing her back to the clan this time is to help her resolve her extreme Yin body. You should understand now, right?" After the white-haired young man spoke those words, Murong Sun's expression immediately changed. Naturally, he knew about the extreme Yin body. He also knew about the dangers within. The extreme Yin body was indeed an extremely powerful special body in this world. However, everyone in this world knew that it was a strange body that harmed others and oneself. If there was any way to help Lung Bingshuang resolve the problem of her body, then of course he would be extremely happy. However, just as Murong Sun was pondering with a heart full of suspicion, 3 figures suddenly arrived outside the guest hall. It was Xiaoyan and the other two. Chapter 11-13. The sudden arrival of Xiaoyan and the other two immediately drew the gazes of both Murong Sun and Xianxia. When Murong Sun saw Murong Xian bring Lung Bingshuang here, shock first emerged in his eyes, then he breathed a sigh of relief inside. If what the white-haired young man said was true, then perhaps Lung Bingshuang's arrival could not only resolve the crisis for his Azure Phoenix clan, it could also help her remove the hidden danger in her body. If that was the case, this deal was not a loss. While Murong Sun was quietly relaxing in his heart, the gazes of Xianxia and the others below the stage had similarly landed on Xiaoyan's group. Seeing that Murong Xian had returned and had even brought someone back, their hearts were naturally filled with joy. A couple of gazes swiftly observed Lung Bingshuang's lovely body beside Murong Xian. Their brows were immediately knit together when they noticed the black-robed young man who was similarly standing beside her. They could clearly sense the enmity that this black-robed young man's eyes revealed when he looked at them. When the three of them stepped into this place, Xiaoyan had already heard everything the white-haired young man said. Others did not know, but Xiaoyan knew very well that if he wanted to resolve the problem of Lung Bingshuang's extreme mean body, he had to have intercourse with her. No matter if it was her body or her soul, they had to completely merge with her. In other words, unless Lung Bingshuang married someone, her extreme mean body could not be resolved. But right now, Lung Bingshuang was one of his people, yet the young man said such clear words in front of him. How could he possibly not be moved? This is a human. Why did a human enter this place? Is the Goshawk Castle a human market? Why aren't you kicking him out? Ignoring the enmity in Xiaoyan's eyes, Xianxia frowned and opened his mouth in a deep voice. However, the two guards from the Murong clan standing in front of the door to the guest hall did not move in the slightest. This caused Xianxia's face to instantly become embarrassed. His old face twitched slightly. After which, his dissatisfied gaze landed on Murong Sun. The latter involuntarily knit his brows together when he saw this. Just as he was about to open his mouth, another middle-aged man among the few Murong clan elders seated on the right side of the stage suddenly stood up. His gaze, which was filled with surprise, was thrown onto Xiaoyan's body. You're Xiaoyan? As the words were spat out from this middle-aged man's mouth, the gazes of everyone present once again landed on him. Numerous gazes swept back and forth between the middle-aged man and Xiaoyan. It was very difficult to imagine that these two people, who did not appear to have met each other no matter how one looked at it, actually knew each other. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Xiaoyan's gaze immediately landed on him as well. His expression was first taken aback, then he immediately thought of a person who looked similar to the middle-aged man. A warm smile appeared on his face and he said with a clear voice, "Senior Murong, we meet again." This Murong was the fourth uncle who took Murong Chanshan away from Xiaoyan Murong Hao. It really is you. Who would have thought, who would have thought? When we meet again, the half-step emperor kid from back then has already become an origin transformation expert. Kid, your rate of growth is truly shocking. Xiaoyan could not help but smile awkwardly when he heard that. He did not say anything more on the topic. On the other hand, the people from Xianxia immediately raised their eyebrows when they heard Xiaoyan's name. Even they, as passers-by, had heard of this name that had recently become extremely famous in the western region. He had actually forcefully killed a returnance expert with his cultivation at the origin transformation realm. Even they were extremely shocked by such a battle achievement. However, when they saw that this legendary Xiaoyan was actually just a young man with such a young appearance, a surprise involuntarily flashed across the eyes of that white-haired young man despite his character. All right. Since you know each other, I won't interfere. However, since you've come, Lung Bingshuang, that means you're willing to return with us. The elders of the clan have already been waiting for a long time. Let's not waste any more words. We'll immediately set off for the central region. He stood up as he spoke. The white-haired young man by his side also stood up. His gaze, which had landed on Xiaoyan's body, shifted to Lung Bingshuang's beautiful face. His gaze repeatedly swept over the latter's proud lovely body. A greedy expression flashed deep within his eyes. Of course we'll set off. However, I'm afraid that you'll be the only ones returning. At this moment, the calm-faced Xiaoyan suddenly stood up. His eyes swept over the white-haired young man before looking at Xianxia, who was leading the group, and spoke in a faint voice. What did you say? The expressions on the faces of Xianxia and the white-haired young man beside him immediately changed when Xiaoyan's words sounded. Two gazes that were filled with displeasure landed on Xiaoyan's body at the same time. At the same time, an invisible aura and pressure spread out from the air. It immediately descended on Xiaoyan's head. The heavy pressure caused Xiaoyan's body to bend down in an instant. Half of his knees had nearly landed on the ground. Surprise involuntarily flashed across Xianxia's eyes when he saw that Xiaoyan was actually able to block his aura. He was just about to increase the pressure when another aura that was not inferior to his was suddenly unleashed from behind him. It easily resolved his aura and pressure. Even the aura that was suppressing Xiaoyan's body was also removed. Elder Xianxia, Xiaoyan is our guest. We cannot allow our guest to be bullied in our territory. Murong Sun stood up from the main seat and indifferently spoke. Xianxia's sinister eyes slowly narrowed. He turned his head and shot a glance at Murong Sun, then returned his gaze to Xiaoyan. With an icy tone he said, "You heard what this brat said just now. You don't want us to take Lung Bingshuang away? That depends on whether you have the qualifications to say such words. Zhang Xian's gaze then looked back at Leng Bingshuang. He said with a deep voice, Leng Bingshuang, since you've come today, you must return with us. No. The reason I've come here is to tell you that I will absolutely not return to that place. Even if I do, I will be going there to take back what belongs to us. Zhang Xian tightly furrowed his brows. He didn't expect Leng Bingshuang to still be unwilling to return with them even with the lives of the Azure Phoenix clan as a threat. Helpless, he could only cast his gaze towards Murong Sun again. Murong Sun, don't you want to say something? After all, we're doing this for her own good. However, if she doesn't appreciate it, then she will have to bear the consequences herself. Murong Sun felt extremely helpless in his heart when he heard those words. He hesitated for a moment before finally opening his mouth. Unfortunately, before the words in his mouth could be completely spat out, they were interrupted by Xiaoyan. Leng Bingshuang, you should know that the extreme Yin body. I'm sorry. If it's about the extreme Yin body, then there's no need for you to worry. Chapter 11:14. The moment the words left Xiaoyan's mouth in the guest hall, the gazes of everyone present from both parties instantly landed on him in an orderly manner. Their gazes contained both surprise and bewilderment. On the other hand, Leng Bingshuang, who stood next to Xiaoyan, couldn't help but feel her face burn up when she heard Xiaoyan's words. As the person involved, she naturally knew what Xiaoyan was referring to. However, thinking back to it now, there was no longer any scarlet-red fury in her eyes. Instead, they were pink. I wonder what Mr. Xiaoyan means by that. This matter is of great importance to my clan, so I hope you won't boast so carelessly. On the main seat, Murong Sun was also looking at Xiaoyan with a serious expression. He knew very well the weight of Xiaoyan's words. If he wasn't careful, it would likely cause the two sides to immediately clash. So, he had to be careful. I've heard of you before. Brat, this old man has heard of you. It's only because you have some foundation that you can make a name for yourself in this barren land. However, this old man still advises you to know your own limits. The extreme Yin body is a strange physique that has troubled countless experts of the entire continent. Many top experts of the continent have studied it for countless years without any progress. Now, you actually say that we don't need to worry about it. What, do you have a solution? Zhang Xian's sinister eyes narrowed into a straight line as he stared at Xiaoyan. The formless pressure once again spread outwards. Compared to before, the current Murong Sun didn't do anything to stop it. Although Zhang Xian wasn't a righteous person, his words were not exaggerated in the slightest. The extreme Yin body was special to begin with. According to legends, it was a strange constitution on par with the woeful poison body. In this world, there was almost no one who could control it. Even if they could forcefully suppress it, it would still cause an even greater disaster due to the backlash of the constitution. Therefore, Murong Sun would not allow any mistakes to occur in this matter. Even if the Xiaoyan in front of him was not an ordinary person, it was just as Zhang Xian had said. He was, after all, merely a person from this remote western region. Although his training talent was not bad, he was merely ordinary when placed in the entire continent. Without Murong Sun blocking him, Xiaoyan alone faced Zhang Xian's frightening aura and pressure that he could not match. His firm body only endured for a short few seconds before it was forcefully pressed down by the powerful pressure. His body emitted a bang as it knelt on the ground. This time around, even the ground under his body cracked because of this powerful aura and pressure. An inch-deep pit was smashed into the ground. The sudden change caused Leng Bingshuang's and Murong Xian's expressions to change. Although Leng Bingshuang wanted to help Xiaoyan, who was half kneeling on the ground, up, facing Zhang Xian's pressure, how could the two of them fight back with their strength? Immediately their faces sank. Leng Bingshuang glared with her extremely cold eyes. Her gaze instantly swept past Zhang Xian's body, and the chilliness that shot over made Zhang Xian's heart slightly chill. Then Leng Bingshuang spoke to Murong Sun and coldly sneered. Murong Sun, everything he said is true. The problem of the extreme Yin body has been solved. There won't be any problems in the future. What? It's really solved? Hearing Leng Bingshuang admit it herself, Murong Sun's heart was also filled with shock. Naturally, he wouldn't have any doubts about the former's words. However, what he didn't expect was what method they used to solve the extreme Yin body that no one could solve. Was there truly a way to solve such a horrifying constitution? Why aren't you saving him? Just as Murong Sun was feeling shocked by Leng Bingshuang's words, the latter suddenly shouted, causing Murong Sun to instantly come back to his senses. With a face full of cold sweat, he quickly made his move, removing Zhang Xian's pressure in one go. He didn't pay attention to Zhang Xian's extremely ugly expression, and instead, suspiciously looked back and forth between Lung Bingshuang and Xiaoyan, who was breathing roughly. With Lung Bingshuang's prideful nature, when had she ever cared so much about a person? She even furiously roared at him for Xiaoyan. Ever since he met Lung Bingshuang, it was the second time he saw such a scene. Almost at the same time in Song Xian's group, the white-haired young man's icy blue eyes kept on looking back and forth between Xiaoyan and Lung Bingshuang after Xiaoyan's words. His heart was filled with bewilderment. It wasn't until Lung Bingshuang personally confirmed it for Xiaoyan, and even revealed the crimson color that only a little girl would have on her face, that he immediately understood how Lung Bingshuang's extreme mean body was solved. This adulterous couple, they truly deserve to die. They actually ruined my plan just like that. When the white-haired young man fully understood this point, the rage in his heart immediately could not be suppressed. His standing body trembled slightly uncontrollably, the muscles on his face twitched, and a pair of ice-blue eyes surged with killing intent. Although their goal in coming to the western region was indeed to bring Lung Bingshuang back to the clan and solve the hidden danger of her extreme mean body, their final goal was to transfer the extreme mean body into his body through a special secret method, creating a fake extreme mean body. In addition to his own ice attribute Genesis Chi, once the two were combined, his cultivation speed would definitely rise to a whole new level, and his future would be filled with limitless possibilities. However, the prerequisite for this was that Lung Bingshuang's extreme mean body had not fully matured, and her body had to be a virgin. He had waited for this day for a very long time. He never imagined that all his efforts would be in vain in the end. Thinking back when he was still young, the elders of the white-haired young man had once mentioned Lung Bingshuang to him. The reason why they did not bring Lung Bingshuang back early was because they hoped to suppress Lung Bingshuang's cultivation speed, allowing the young man to completely suppress the extreme mean body's rampage when he absorbed it. In this way, the process of the young man fusing with it would naturally be much easier. According to their estimates, the extreme mean body should not have fully matured by now. If they brought Lung Bingshuang back at this time, their plan would have been absolutely foolproof. Unfortunately, plans could never keep up with changes. Who could have imagined that Lung Bingshuang would forcefully consume the extreme Arctic ice soul when the Shilin mountain range was in danger, causing the extreme mean body to erupt prematurely? It was also because of this that she had such a relationship with Xiaoyan. The many years of waiting of this young man had all turned into bubbles in a few words. Chapter 11:15. Since the matter has been resolved, Elder Tsang Xian, I believe you all should be able to return, right? Knowing that the extreme mean body had been completely resolved, the rock that had been hanging in Murong Sun's heart finally fell to the ground. He quickly plastered a smile on his face as he looked towards Tsang Xian and the others. With a wave of his sleeve, he made an inviting gesture as he quietly waited for them to leave. Humph! Tsang Xian coldly snorted in displeasure when he heard this, and was about to leave with the people behind him. However, the instant he moved, the white-haired young man beside him suddenly made a move. He coldly snorted, and the instant he raised his head, his gaze landed on Lung Bingshuang as he said in a deep voice, "Even so, Lung Bingshuang, you are still a member of my Heaven Demon Phoenix clan. You must follow the rules of my Heaven Demon Phoenix clan. So, no matter what, I must bring you back today." The instant his words left his mouth, the white-haired young man's foot fiercely stomped on the ground. A powerful force instantly burst forth, and a basin-sized pit was immediately created. At the same time, the white-haired young man's figure instantly disappeared. However, he had already arrived in front of Lung Bingshuang in the blink of an eye, and grabbed towards her shoulder. Scram! The white-haired young man's sudden attack caught Lung Bingshuang off guard for a moment. However, Xiaoyan, who had been paying attention to her, abruptly jerked the instant the white-haired young man arrived. He instantly activated the giant elephant art, and the Genesis Chi in the vortex in his body rapidly circulated. In a flash, he appeared in front of Lung Bingshuang like a ghost. His hand clenched into a fist, and under the condensation of Genesis Chi and force, he viciously met the white-haired young man's palm. Humph, I knew you would attack. The white-haired young man seemed to have expected this. In the blink of an eye, powerful force instantly multiplied in the palm that he had extended forward. The instant it collided with Xiaoyan's fist, it viciously sent Xiaoyan flying with an unstoppable force. As an advanced origin transformation expert, Xiaoyan had been mercilessly sent flying by a single punch from the white-haired young man. Faced with someone of similar age, Xiaoyan's attack was actually unable to withstand a single blow. How is this possible? To the side, Murong Xian blankly stared at Xiaoyan as he was sent flying. Disbelief filled his face as he glanced between the two. Soon after, An extremely terrifying presence radiated from the white-haired young man's body. Only then did Murong Xian and Leng Bingshuang understand why the white-haired young man could send Xiaoyan flying with a single palm strike. His cultivation had already reached the returnance realm, and if they were not mistaken, he was probably a powerful late returnance expert. The difference of an entire level of cultivation was not something that could be made up for with battle prowess. Even though Xiaoyan had defeated a returnance expert before, that was only an early returnance expert in the end. However, it was completely different this time. Even if Xiaoyan used his full strength, he would not be the opponent of a late returnance expert. However, Leng Bingshuang was in no mood to pay attention to the young man's cultivation. All she could think about right now was Xiaoyan's current situation. Tens of seconds later, Xiaoyan, who had been sent flying by a punch from the white-haired young man, once again stepped into the guest hall from outside. Dust permeated the air. As his footsteps moved forward, an invisible wind swept away the dust fog. "Xiaoyan, are you all right?" Seeing Xiaoyan step forward, Leng Bingshuang's pretty face immediately carried an anxious expression as she stepped forward to inquire. Xiaoyan merely grinned at her in response, revealing a row of teeth that were dyed with fresh blood. After which, his gaze continued to look at the white-haired man. His tongue violently licked his lips, revealing a bloodthirsty manner. "I never thought that your cultivation would have already reached late returnance. I'm at the peak of late returnance. Kid, since you've touched something that doesn't belong to you, I'll make you understand the price of your actions today." The white-haired young man let out a furious snort. His body immediately flashed. In the blink of an eye, he had already arrived in front of Xiaoyan. After which, he began to violently slap Xiaoyan's head. However, it was also at this moment that Leng Bingshuang suddenly moved. She arrived before Xiaoyan and used her full strength to receive the white-haired young man's strike. Boom. However, the huge gap between their cultivations caused Leng Bingshuang's lovely body to be instantly sent flying. At the same time, a mouthful of bright red fresh blood was spat out from her mouth, transforming into a blood fog that scattered onto Xiaoyan's face. The trace of coolness brought an extremely furious emotion to Xiaoyan. He had never thought that he would allow his woman to be bullied in front of him. At this very moment, the action of this white-haired young man had undoubtedly infuriated Xiaoyan in an instant. However, the white-haired young man had no idea that he had infuriated Xiaoyan. After sending Leng Bingshuang flying with a single strike, he directly changed his target and looked at Leng Bingshuang instead. Leng Bingshuang. On the other side, the patriarch and other elders of the Cyan Phoenix clan were enraged when they saw this scene, but they were immediately blocked by the experts brought by Xianxia. "Bitch. You're actually interested in trash like him. Since you insist on blocking for him, I'll send you on your way first. Then I'll kill that trash and make you two a pair of lovebirds." Arriving in front of Leng Bingshuang, the white-haired youth scolded with a ferocious expression. Then he slowly raised his right hand, and with an extremely fast speed, mixed with an extremely tyrannical strength, he ruthlessly hit Leng Bingshuang's pale face. Boom. However, in the next instant, a hand that was filled with power suddenly grabbed the wrist of the white-haired young man and forcefully stopped his movement. At the same time, a powerful force actually firmly held onto his wrist like a metal clamp, causing him to be unable to move at all. "What? You trash, get out of my way." The moment the white-haired young man turned his head, the expression on his face involuntarily became startled when he saw that it was actually Xiaoyan. Soon after, a furious emotion suddenly rose within the white-haired young man's heart. His other hand was suddenly clenched into a fist and violently smashed toward Xiaoyan's lowered head. Once this fist landed on Xiaoyan's head, it was likely that even with the strength of his physical body, he would be unable to endure it. Boom. However, a strange scene appeared once again. The white-haired young man's punch, which contained quite a bit of strength, was once again blocked by Xiaoyan's other hand. Soon after, under the white-haired young man's shocked gaze, Xiaoyan slowly raised his head, revealing a face that was filled with a wild killing intent. After which, one could hear an extremely heavy muffled sound. The white-haired young man's body uncontrollably shot backwards and actually forcefully penetrated through the dome of the guest hall. Chapter 11:16. The sudden turn of events attracted the gazes of everyone in the hall. When they saw the white-haired young man being sent flying by Xiaoyan's attack, everyone on the Zhongshuan side could not help but reveal shocked expressions. Given the white-haired young man's cultivation, they did not dare to believe that Xiaoyan, who was at the advanced origin transformation stage, would be able to force him back. However, when these people's gazes landed on Xiaoyan, they were surprised to discover that Xiaoyan's aura had undergone an extremely great change in the blink of an eye. His original late origin transformation cultivation had actually skyrocketed, reaching mid-returnance and even approaching late returnance. Compared to the white-haired young man, Xiaoyan's current cultivation was no different from his. Is this a secret technique? No, it's not a secret technique. It's a pill. No wonder. No wonder this kid can defeat a returnance expert with his cultivation at the origin transformation realm. So he's using a pill that can temporarily increase his cultivation. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to be the opponent of a returnance expert with his measly strength. How can the difference in cultivation be made up for so easily? However, if we let him continue like this, it's very likely that his cultivation will surpass Feng Xiangyu's. Steward, should we stop this kid? These people were indeed worthy of being members of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe. With just a glance, they were able to see some clues on Xiaoyan's body. However, while these people were hesitating on whether they should intervene, Feng Xiangyu's body suddenly flashed above the dome that had been penetrated by his body. He arrived in front of Xiaoyan in the blink of an eye. His face was ferocious as his claw violently smashed toward Xiaoyan's head. I was careless and actually forgot about you. Looks like you're even more trash than I imagined. You actually relied on pills to increase your strength. Feng Xiangyu's attack was fierce. His sharp claw was wrapped in Genesis Qi and forcefully tore through space. Wherever it passed, space collapsed as a sharp sonic boom rang out in the hall. In an instant, Feng Xiangyu's curved claw had already approached Xiaoyan's face. It seemed like it would land on Xiaoyan's face in the next moment. However, Xiaoyan did not panic in the face of Feng Xiangyu's attack. He bent down and picked up Lung Bingshuang before Feng Xiangyu could reach him. When he lowered his head and saw the trace of blood at the corner of Lung Bingshuang's mouth, the killing intent in Xiaoyan's eyes became even sharper. You're courting death. Seeing that Xiaoyan actually dared to ignore his attack, Feng Xiangyu's expression changed. At the same time, he could not help but curse angrily. Since he was young, other than a few people in the clan, no one had dared to treat him with such contempt. Xiaoyan could be said to be the first, but he would definitely be the last. With this thought in mind, Feng Xiangyu's attack became even fiercer. In an instant, Xiaoyan's head was torn to shreds. Feng Xiangyu did not even turn his head to look as his claw swept past. He was confident that Xiaoyan had no chance of survival under his attack. Humph, you overestimate yourself. You think you can fight me by relying on pills? Really? Feng Xiangyu lowered his head and sneered. At the same time, he glanced at his hand that had just grabbed Xiaoyan's head. When he saw that his hand was not stained with the slightest bit of blood, his eyes were slightly startled. Following that, the expression on his face became interesting. There was not the slightest trace of blood in his fair palm, and the attack just now seemed incomparably easy. It was as if Xiaoyan had exploded into nothingness under his claw. However, Feng Xiangyu also knew that even if Xiaoyan had died, it was impossible for there not to be any traces of blood left behind. Xiaoyan turned his head to take a look. Indeed, behind Feng Xiangyu, there was a broken illusionary figure that was quietly dispersing. The thing that he had pierced through was merely the head of this illusionary figure. As for Xiaoyan's actual body, he had already left the spot with Lung Bingshuang when Feng Xiangyu's claw landed. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, Feng Xiangyu was even more shocked. He originally thought that he had killed Xiaoyan, but it was only an afterimage. Shwa. Immediately after, Feng Xiangyu quickly felt an aura filled with killing intent. He immediately turned around and saw Xiaoyan, who was at a corner of the hall, gently placing Lung Bingshuang's delicate body on a table and feeding her a pill. Only then did he slowly raise his head. A pair of indifferent pitch-black eyes stared calmly at Feng Xiangyu, as if nothing had happened. However, every time this happened, Xiaoyan would be the most terrifying. Feng Xiangyu's heart involuntarily felt a chill spread when he noticed Xiaoyan's calm dark black eyes. Although those eyes appeared calm, they contained a kind of annihilation feeling that appeared to be about to swallow everything. The invisible might that it gave others was likely even more dangerous than the ferocious aura that Feng Xiangyu was currently emitting. Humph? Feng Xiangyu coldly snorted. This time, even with his temperament, he didn't dare to act rashly. He could clearly feel that Xiaoyan's strength was no longer inferior to his own. In fact, it was even faintly showing signs of being superior. Although this strength was only temporary, as long as Xiaoyan possessed it, it meant that Xiaoyan had the strength to fight on par with him. In fact, he might even be able to suppress him. Therefore, even Feng Xiangyu couldn't act rashly before he had a complete chance of winning. Just as the people on Xianxia's side were about to intervene, they were stopped by the people led by Murong Xian. Murong Xian knew that his father needed to face Xianxia. Therefore the remaining people could only be left to him to deal with. As for Xiaoyan's side, after seeing Xiaoyan's current condition, Murong Xian was certain that the one called Feng Xiangyu was going to suffer. Since there was no one on either side who could interfere in the battle between the two, Xiaoyan could naturally wholeheartedly deal with the white-haired young man before him. Hee, I didn't expect a trash from the western region like you to possess a pill that can greatly increase one's cultivation. Feng Xiangyu's face carried ridicule as he stared at Xiaoyan opposite him. His mouth repeatedly sneered. At the same time, his gaze was constantly observing Xiaoyan's expression. If he could affect Xiaoyan's mental state at this moment, it would undoubtedly be a good thing for him. However, Xiaoyan didn't comment on Feng Xiangyu's words. His indifferent gaze swept across the former's body as he sneered. You keep calling me trash. Since you look down on me so much, aren't you still standing here with me? The flesh on Feng Xiangyu's face involuntarily twitched when these words were uttered. He was just about to open his mouth to curse when Xiaoyan on the opposite side let out a cold laugh. Xiaoyan's feet heavily stomped on the ground. A wild and violent force suddenly poured out like a volcano eruption. Xiaoyan's body also disappeared from the original spot in an instant. Soon after, he had already arrived in front of Feng Xiangyu. A fist violently smashed toward Feng Xiangyu's face. Chapter 11:17. Although Feng Xiangyu wanted to take the opportunity to affect Xiaoyan's state of mind, he did not expect that he would be used by the latter. Even if it was only for a moment, with the sky extinction step and the wing elephant art, in addition to the close distance between them, it was enough for him to launch a fierce attack on Feng Xiangyu. All that Xiaoyan needed to do was to cause Feng Xiangyu's state of mind to fluctuate for an instant when he executed this attack. In the end he succeeded. Xiaoyan's lightning-like speed did not give Feng Xiangyu any opportunity to attack. By the time he lifted his head, a powerful wind pressure had already descended from above his head. His entire body appeared to be pressed under a mountain, making it difficult for him to move. Hence, this punch of Xiaoyan's could be said to have completely smashed into Feng Xiangyu's face without holding back. Bang! As the punch landed, Feng Xiangyu's entire face was distorted in an instant. Fresh blood spurted out from his entire face. His mouth full of teeth were all knocked out by Xiaoyan's punch. The thoughts in his mind also became blank under Xiaoyan's punch. A feeling of dizziness appeared in his mind. His entire body flew backwards uncontrollably like a broken sack. He heavily smashed onto the stone pillar in the hall, smashing it into pieces. Bastard, you're courting death. Seeing that Feng Xiangyu was actually sent flying by Xiaoyan's punch without holding back, a few of the experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe could no longer maintain their composure. As they cursed, their figures rushed forward, wanting to take down Xiaoyan. However, the moment these people moved, Murong Hao and a group of elders from the Murong family in front of them immediately stepped forward and stopped these people. At the same time, Xiaoyan did not stop. Before Feng Xiangyu regained his senses, Xiaoyan's figure once again appeared in front of him. He waved his fists and ruthlessly smashed Feng Xiangyu's body in front of the broken stone pillar, one punch after another. In the hall, the sound of the tremors did not stop. Feng Xiangyu's body was buried deep in the ruins of the hall under Xiaoyan's fists. Every time Xiaoyan's fist landed, there would be a dull collision sound. The hall in front of everyone present was also trembling slightly. At this very moment, everyone from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had their hearts in their throats. The higher-ups had sent them here to ensure Feng Xiangyu's safety, but now Feng Xiangyu was being violently attacked by a human right in front of them. They could only watch helplessly. This made them feel extremely helpless. At this very moment, they could only hope that the medicinal effect of the pill in Xiaoyan's body would quickly wear off. Otherwise, if anything happened to Feng Xiangyu, it was likely that everyone present would pay the price with their lives. Bang! 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 Heavy explosions continuously sounded. Every time Xiaoyan's fist landed, it was as if it was smashing into their hearts. At a certain moment, even the calm and unmoving Xianxia finally could not maintain the expression on his face. It was indeed a good thing for a person to experience some setbacks. However, he never expected that Feng Xiangyu would not get up after being hit by Xiaoyan's fist. Although Xiaoyan played a part in this, it was mostly due to Feng Xiangyu's own intelligence. Just from this point alone, the human called Xiaoyan had already far surpassed him. Otherwise, the person lying on the ground would not be him, Feng Xiangyu. Quickly after, Xianxia's lips and teeth opened slightly. A soundless murmur was quietly sent into Feng Xiangyu's mind, instantly waking up the dizzy Feng Xiangyu from his unconscious state. On the main seat, Murong Sun naturally sensed Zhang Xian's actions. However, he also knew Feng Xiangyu's identity. If something truly happened to Feng Xiangyu here, it would likely bring a true calamity to the current Cyan Phoenix clan. So, before that happened, he absolutely could not allow anything to happen to Feng Xiangyu. As for Xiao Yan's violent beating, he would just treat it as a lesson. If Xiao Yan really wanted to kill Feng Xiangyu, it was not something that could be done with a mere punch. Given Xiao Yan's temperament, even if fury had already filled his heart, he still clearly understood that he absolutely could not bring a calamity to the Murong clan for any unnecessary reason. After roaming the continent for so many years, his temperament and experience were already incomparable to ordinary people. He was very clear on this point. This made Murong Sun feel much more at ease. It was also one of the reasons why Zhang Xian did not stop Xiao Yan when he saw Feng Xiangyu's violent beating. Bang! The instant Feng Xiangyu's consciousness recovered, Xiao Yan's fist was instantly blocked by a single hand. The frantically circulating Genesis Qi in his body immediately turned into a protective barrier, causing his aura to rise madly in an instant. Bastard give, bang. However, even though Feng Xiangyu had already recovered his strength, Xiao Yan's other fist landed heavily with an even more ferocious momentum before he could finish spitting out the curse in his mouth. It completely smashed Feng Xiangyu's body into the ground. When Xiao Yan stood up with an expressionless face, the entire hall became completely silent. The atmosphere appeared strange and solemn. Everyone's gazes gathered on Xiao Yan's body in unison. Boom! Suddenly, the hall's ground was torn apart by a terrifying force. Rays of golden light shot out from the cracks, and with an earth-shaking cry, an enormous bird abruptly flew out, swallowing Xiao Yan in a single gulp. Then it completely destroyed the hall's dome and rushed out of the Goshawk castle. Human. Today I will completely devour you. As the cry rang out again, Feng Xiangyu, who had reverted to his original form, fiercely bit down, intending to crush Xiao Yan in his mouth. However, reality was not as simple as he had imagined. Clang. Dazzling golden light enveloped Xiao Yan's body as powerful Genesis Qi surged out wave after wave. The effects of the Dragon Bone Pill continued to seep out. Although the power was not enough for Xiao Yan's cultivation to break through the shackles of the Returnance realm, it was enough to make him invincible in the Returnance realm. Coupled with his own battle prowess, Feng Xiangyu was no longer a threat to him. Ignoring Feng Xiangyu's attack, Xiao Yan used all his strength to display the giant elephant skill. An enormous illusory figure stood between the sky and the earth like Mount Tai. Soon after, in front of Feng Xiangyu's enormous beast eyes that were filled with terror, both of Xiao Yan's hands lifted Feng Xiangyu's body from the neck as though he was carrying a dead chicken. Xiao Yan used all his strength to violently smash Feng Xiangyu's body into a huge open ground in the city below. Chapter 11-18. Boom. In Blue Eagle City, Feng Xiangyu, who had transformed into his actual body, was heavily smashed down by Xiao Yan, who had used the giant elephant skill. His enormous body was like a falling star as it heavily smashed into an enormous square in the city below. The frightening impact smashed the entire square into a deep pit in an instant. Feng Xiangyu's enormous body was also buried deep within the enormous pit. No trace of him could be seen. Huff! Xiao Yan exhaled a long breath of turbid air from his mouth as he stood in the sky. His chest rose and fell as he gently clenched his hands. He sensed the surging strength within his body and a surprised expression involuntarily surfaced on his face. This Dragon Bone Pill was indeed worthy of being a Tier 6 medicinal pill. Such a continuous and surging strength was still able to cause his overall condition to be at its peak even at this moment. They were both at the peak of late returnance, but Feng Xiangyu was not Xiao Yan's opponent at all. Logically speaking, a pill was still a pill after all. Whether it was in terms of control or circulation, a huge difference existed between a pill and a pill that relied on external sources of energy. However, even with that being the case, Feng Xiangyu was still not Xiao Yan's opponent. The fact that Xiao Yan could achieve this was proof of Xiao Yan's strength. Just think, if Xiao Yan had relied on his true strength, how could Feng Xiangyu have the chance to fight back? Cough cough cough. At the bottom of the huge pit, the golden light dissipated and Feng Xiangyu returned to his human form. However, he looked like a beggar at this time. His clothes were torn, his hair was disheveled, and his face was dirty. His entire body was twisted and broken. Countless bones in his body were broken, and even his chest was completely caved in. Conspicuous huge fist marks appeared on his body, and blood was already stained all over his body. His distorted face made it impossible to recognize his identity. Feng Xianyu had really been beaten to the point where even his mother would not be able to recognize him. However, Xiaoyan did not seem to have any intentions of stopping. The giant elephant's skill quietly disappeared, turning into a golden light that filled the sky and disappeared from the world. Following the disappearance of the golden light, Xiaoyan's body also strangely disappeared from the spot. Almost at the same time, the skinny body of Xiaoyan suddenly appeared in front of Feng Xiangyu in the huge pit. At this moment, no one dared to look down on this black-robed young man, whose body appeared thin and weak. The swollen flesh on Feng Xiangyu's face covered his eyes, preventing him from seeing what was happening. However, he was still a returnance expert after all, so he could still sense the appearance of the person before him. However, he was unable to respond in his current state. He did not have any strength to retaliate in the face of Xiaoyan's storm-like attacks. Even if he managed to struggle for an instant, he would be defeated by a single attack. Only at this moment did he sense just how frightening this black-robed young man in front of him was. Only then did he clearly recognize his own powerlessness. Yes, whether it was pills or secret techniques, as long as it was a power that could be controlled, it belonged to him and was also a part of his strength. In the past he had really missed this point. Soon afterwards, Xiaoyan swung his fist again, smashing it viciously at Feng Xiangyu's face. "Human, don't you dare." It was also in the next moment that a sharp, vicious cry boomed through Blue Eagle City. It was like the cry of an eagle but also like thunder. The moment this voice was emitted, Xiaoyan's raised fist suddenly paused. His entire body was out of control in an instant. There seemed to be a strength in this world that could not be disobeyed controlling his actions. Even though he had used all his strength, he was still unable to control his body. Bzz. In an instant, Xiaoyan's mind buzzed as shock surged in his heart. He could feel the strength of this person. The power he possessed was likely even greater than that of Xianxia. Even the patriarch of the Azure Phoenix clan, Murong Sun, could not compare to him. What terrifying power! On top of the shock in Xiaoyan's heart, a feather drifted down from the sky above his head. An extremely powerful force suddenly descended and pressed down on Xiaoyan's head. "Humph, you dare to touch my clan's guest in my Blue Eagle City? You really don't put my Azure Phoenix clan in your eyes." Just as the pressure was about to land on Xiaoyan's head, an ancient and hoarse voice suddenly rang out from the Goshawk Castle. It echoed in Blue Eagle City like the ringing of a bell. The pressure that was about to land on Xiaoyan's head was also invisibly dispersed. You're going to stand up for this human brat?" A fierce cry was once again transmitted from the sky. Xiaoyan's heart was filled with shock as he lifted his head and looked over. He was surprised to discover that the place where the voice had originated from was one of the 3 enormous birds that were lingering in the sky. "Humph, Blue Eagle City is not a place where you can behave atrociously. If you dare to attack again, bzz." The old voice faintly rang out. Almost at the same time, an invisible energy wave suddenly swept out from the Goshawk Castle. His target was the 3 giant birds in the sky. The 3 big fellows instantly retreated into the distance as if they had been frightened. Clearly, even they did not dare to easily deal with such an attack. A shocked expression involuntarily surfaced on Xiaoyan's face when he saw the 3 huge birds hurriedly pulling back. To be able to rely on an invisible energy ripple to force back these 3 fellows? Just how frightening was the cultivation of this mysterious strong person. It was a long while later before Xiaoyan, who was in the city below, finally turned his head around with some lingering fear. He really did not expect that he would be able to repeatedly meet such frightening experts in this seemingly barren western region. This Yuanwu continent was really a place with hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Even the barren western region of the continent was like this. It was difficult to imagine just what kind of shocking scene there would be in the mysterious middle region. The moment Xiaoyan turned around, he realized that Feng Xiangyu had already disappeared. He focused his gaze and saw that Feng Xiangyu was currently sitting cross-legged on a street in the distance. A surging energy was swiftly dispersing within his body. In the blink of an eye, most of the injuries on his body had already recovered. Surging medicinal strength continued to surge out of his body, healing the injuries on his body at a speed visible to the naked eye. Seeing this scene, Xiaoyan could not help but raise his eyebrows. He did not expect Feng Xiangyu to calm down so quickly. Feng Xiangyu did not take advantage of Xiaoyan's absent-mindedness to madly retaliate. Instead, Feng Xiangyu tactfully retreated a distance and used this short period of time to heal his injuries. It seemed that Feng Xiangyu was not an idiot. He had actually comprehended something during the battle. Sensing Xiaoyan's gaze, Feng Xiangyu, whose face was still a little distorted, finally opened his pair of icy cold eyes. An extremely cold glint flashed deep within his eyes. Soon after, a dazzling golden light that was like the sun shot out from his eyes. Xiaoyan, use all your strength and fight me head-on. As soon as he finished speaking, waves of powerful bloodline pressure spread out from his body, transforming into a seemingly material aura that enveloped Feng Xiangyu's body. Chapter 11-19. Xiaoyan's heart skipped a beat when he felt the bloodline aura that was bursting out from Feng Xiangyu's body. At the same time, he could not help but look elsewhere. After confirming that there was nothing out of the ordinary, he turned his gaze back to Feng Xiangyu. Bloodline power, huh? Xiaoyan was naturally very clear about this special demonic beast bloodline. It was similar to the bloodline power of the Xiao clan. Once it was used, it could also bring about a great increase in one's strength in a short period of time. In a battle of this level, once the bloodline power was activated, the battle would undoubtedly be raised to another level. However, this was where the problem lay. In order to not be discovered by the other members of the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe, Xiaoyan had thought of all ways to hide the Dragon Phoenix bloodline in his body before he came here. This was because once the bloodline power of the Dragon Phoenix bloodline was discovered by them, it would definitely bring about a devastating disaster to Xiaoyan. Therefore, throughout the battle, regardless of whether it was Xiaoyan or Feng Xiangyu, if either of them activated the bloodline power, it could possibly expose the fact that Xiaoyan had the Dragon Phoenix bloodline in his body. However, at this moment, Feng Xiangyu had already activated the bloodline power in his body. Xiaoyan could only hope that this guy would not discover anything. Phew! Feng Xiangyu exhaled faintly and slowly stood up from the ground. Waves of icy aura were released from his body and froze the ground around him. Great Way of Ice Domain activate. As Feng Xiangyu uttered the last word, the tip of his foot tapped lightly on the ground that was covered in ice. At the same time, his body flew forward. At the same time, a layer of cold ice spread rapidly above the huge pit. In the blink of an eye, it had already covered Xiaoyan's feet. At the same time, the temperature between heaven and earth dropped abruptly. Snowflakes of ice crystals floated in the sky. The originally gentle breeze was now like an invisible sharp blade that scraped against one's skin painfully. Immediately after, Feng Xiangyu, who was flying forward, clenched his fist tightly. The Great Way of Ice immediately condensed and turned into an ice halberd in his hand. His body circled in midair, and the halberd immediately spun crazily and stabbed towards Xiaoyan. Mammoth Art activate. Xiaoyan frowned slightly in response to Feng Xiangyu's powerful attack. He then abruptly clenched his fists, and the Genesis Qi and power in his body began to circulate at the same time. In the blink of an eye, a giant metal giant once again stood tall in the area. Clang! Sparks burst forth as the halberd ruthlessly pierced into the Vajra giant that was completely condensed from the virtual image. However, it was as if it had really collided with an iron wall. Dazzling sparks continuously burst forth as the powerful force finally pushed Xiaoyan back a little. However, that was all. During this entire process, Xiaoyan did not take the initiative to launch an attack. He completely relied on the strength of the mammoth tactic to directly resist Feng Xiangyu's attacks. What? Feng Xiangyu had clearly activated the power of his bloodline. However, he discovered that he was still unable to defeat Xiaoyan. He was even unable to break through the latter's defense. Such a strange scene caused Feng Xiangyu to be extremely shocked. Damn it! Ice-breaking kill. Seeing that his attack had failed, Feng Xiangyu could only look for another method. The halberd violently jerked, once again pushing Xiaoyan back. He then immediately stabbed the tip of the halberd into the ice in front of him and fiercely twisted. A clear sound of breaking ice was heard as sharp icicles filled with Genesis Qi slowly floated up, hovering around Feng Xiangyu. With a furious roar from Feng Xiangyu, countless icicles viciously pierced towards Xiaoyan with the power to break bamboo. Ding 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 ding, countless crisp sounds of collisions rang out. After those icicles touched the giant elephant art, other than leaving a shallow white mark on its surface, they immediately shattered into pieces of ice shards and fell to the ground. However, these ice shards strangely landed on the surface of the body formed by the giant elephant art. In the end, countless pieces of ice finally sealed Xiaoyan's entire body. A thick layer of ice completely sealed the mammoth tactic in Xiaoyan within, making it impossible for him to move, let alone break free. My ice-breaking kill doesn't rely on the power of these ice shards. Instead, it uses these shards of ice to freeze the opponent. Then I will break the ice from the outside. If the ice is broken, your golden body will be broken as well. As these words left his mouth, Feng Xiangyu's body had already arrived in front of Bingfeng's mammoth tactic. The tip of the halberd touched the ice, and with a little force the entire layer of ice completely shattered. At the same time, Xiaoyan's mammoth tactic was also broken. Kill. With the mammoth tactic broken, the power contained in the ice halberd was unreservedly thrust forward. In a flash, it had already arrived in front of Xiaoyan and was about to pierce his chest. At that time, even if Xiaoyan did not die, his body would be seriously injured in an instant. Bang. However, in the next moment, when the halberd was only a few inches away from Xiaoyan's chest, Xiaoyan clasped his hands together and a powerful force firmly controlled the tip of the halberd between his two hands, causing it to be unable to advance any further. At the same time, ferocious flames abruptly ignited on Xiaoyan's body. The two hands that grabbed the halberd fiercely squeezed. In addition to the raging flames of the heavenly flame, even if it was formed by the power of the great Tao, it was still ruthlessly broken by Xiaoyan. Soon after, Xiaoyan finally raised his head. He stared at Feng Xiangyu's dull face in front of him and smiled coldly. His body suddenly leaned forward. Soon after, his hand, which was covered by the heavenly flame, gently pressed against Feng Xiangyu's chest. Bang! A powerful force pierced through Feng Xiangyu's chest and back in an instant, causing blood to spurt out like a fountain. Feng Xiangyu's complexion, which had just taken a turn for the better, once again turned deathly white. The little bit of confidence and courage he had gathered in his patience had also been destroyed by Xiaoyan in the most merciless manner possible. Feng Xiangyu's body was sent flying uncontrollably as the Genesis Qi he had painstakingly gathered in his body instantly dissipated. Feng Xiangyu's mind was completely blank as despair filled his heart. He did not dare to imagine that his all-out attack was actually no match for Xiaoyan's palm. Just why was this? Xiaoyan did not follow up with another attack after sending Feng Xiangyu flying with his palm. This was because he had already clearly sensed 3 ferocious gazes that wanted to devour him. If he were to continue, it was likely that the 3 fellows in the sky would not be able to endure any longer before Feng Xiangyu breathed his last. Feng Xiangyu was naturally not a problem for him. In today's battle, Xiaoyan had repeatedly destroyed Feng Xiangyu's confidence, which would likely affect his future cultivation. A mere origin transformation expert from the western regions would likely become a demon in Feng Xiangyu's heart in the future, making it difficult for Feng Xiangyu to make any further progress. As such, not only had Xiaoyan not killed Feng Xiangyu, he had also eliminated an enemy that could potentially become a problem in the future. Was this not a good idea? After which, Xiaoyan no longer bothered about Feng Xiangyu. Instead, his body flashed and returned to the Goshawk Castle. It was only at this moment that the enormous strength within Xiaoyan's body began to swiftly disappear. Finally, when Xiaoyan supported his body and arrived in front of the still unconscious Lung Bingshuang, the sight in front of him suddenly turned black. His entire body immediately fell uncontrollably onto Lung Bingshuang's body. Chapter 11:20. By the time Xiaoyan woke up from his unconscious state, Feng Xiangyu's group had already left. With Murong Sun and that mysterious expert blocking them, they could only leave angrily regardless of how furious they were in their hearts. Only a messy Blue Eagle city was left behind. Of course, the members of the Murong clan were unconcerned about this. What they were concerned about was the matter that had happened to Lung Bingshuang. When they saw Xiaoyan angrily attack Feng Xiangyu because of Lung Bingshuang, the upper echelons of the Murong family had already begun to suspect the relationship between the two of them. Only when Xianxia and the others left and they saw Lung Bingshuang's worried expression after she woke up did they become even more certain of their relationship. The overflowing feelings that surpassed the boundaries of friendship made them immediately understand the importance of Xiaoyan in Lung Bingshuang's heart. Of course, Xiaoyan's actions earlier had already proven this woman's identity to them. Such a domineering and irrefutable attitude was rarely seen in the world. Which origin transformation expert would be like Xiaoyan, able to utter such retorting words in the face of Xianxia, whose strength far surpassed his own, like that of Xiaoyan? Most of the time, a person's seemingly foolish action could actually reflect his bravery and worth. If Xiaoyan was embarrassed to speak today because of the difference in strength between him and his opponent, then it was likely that both the Murong clan and Lung Bingshuang would be disappointed in him, especially Lung Bingshuang. However, Xiaoyan had used his actions to break something that most people would not do. Not lowering his head to the strong, not giving up due to fear. After the effects of the dragon bone pill wore off, Xiaoyan still fell before Lung Bingshuang in the end. His slightly skinny body fell onto Lung Bingshuang's body. In the final moment before Xiaoyan completely lost consciousness, he could only smell a faint fragrance. He clearly remembered that it was the unique scent of Lung Bingshuang. In a beautiful boudoir within the Goshawk Castle, Xiaoyan's breathing was calm as he lay on the bed in a deep sleep. Beside him, Lung Bingshuang's soft, boneless, lovely body was lying on the side of the bed. She frowned slightly as her pretty eyes stared at the side of Xiaoyan's face. She was completely entranced and no one knew what she was thinking in her mind. After Murong Sun's personal investigation, he confirmed that Xiaoyan was fine. He had only fainted because the energy in his body had been exhausted. Even so, Lung Bingshuang couldn't help but worry. 2 hours had already passed, yet Xiaoyan still hadn't woken up. Lung Bingshuang stared at Xiaoyan's face in a daze. At a certain moment, Lung Bingshuang, who was absent-minded, suddenly felt an abnormal gaze on her. She immediately came back to her senses, and as she focused her gaze, she saw Xiaoyan staring at her with a smile. His face was filled with an intoxicated expression. Instantly, a crimson color surged onto her cheeks. Lung Bingshuang couldn't help but avoid Xiaoyan's gaze. She lowered her head slightly, and just as she was about to stand up and leave, Xiaoyan suddenly wrapped his arm around her slender waist. Then he lightly lifted, and amidst a surprised cry, Lung Bingshuang's light body was carried onto the bed by Xiaoyan. At the same time, Xiaoyan abruptly flipped over, and put the beauty on top of him onto the bed. Then he pressed her under him. The two of them faced each other. One was like an enraged wild beast, while the other was like a frightened deer that was curled up together. She didn't know what to do. Her beautiful eyes kept on flickering as she looked at the man in front of her. She could clearly feel the uncontrollable raging flames in the man's body. It was as if they were going to devour her alive. It made her both shocked and terrified. "What are you doing?" Lung Bingshuang's heart rapidly jumped as she cried out. At the same time, her body kept on twisting, wanting to escape from Xiaoyan's imprisonment. However, the woman's actions instead caused the man's emotions to rise. He grinned and said with a loud laugh, "What are you doing? What do you think I'm doing? At a time like this, of course I have to do what a man should do." After speaking, Xiaoyan abruptly lowered his head, like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. He didn't allow Lung Bingshuang to say anything else as he lowered his head and pressed her down. Immediately after, in the boudoir, there was boundless spring. After a long time outside the door, Murong Xian slowly walked in from the end of the corridor. A relaxed smile hung on the corner of his mouth. Just as he arrived in front of Lung Bingshuang's door and was about to raise his hand to knock on the door, a faint moving sound came from the boudoir, causing Murong Xian's movements to suddenly stop. His old face couldn't help but flush. It was also at this moment that a few maids from the family walked in. When they saw Murong Xian, they immediately opened their mouths to greet him. However, they were immediately stopped by Murong Xian with a wave of his hand. His body blocked the door as if he wanted to cover up the movements in the room. At the same time, he sent the maids away with a smile on his face. Seeing the graceful backs of the several people leaving, Murong Xian shook his head with a strange expression. After attentively listening for a while, his face reddened as he hurriedly left. Only after the sky darkened did a maid come and respectfully invite the two of them. Only then did Xiaoyan hold Lung Bingshuang's hand and walk out of the room. When the two of them saw Murong Sun and the other people from the clan again, they discovered that everyone's gazes involuntarily looked at Lung Bingshuang. Then their gazes returned to Xiaoyan. Within their gazes, there was a hint of faintly discernible teasing. Xiaoyan was a guest, while Lung Bingshuang had returned to her hometown. Because of that, Murong Xian specially prepared a banquet to welcome the two of them. However, after the two of them sat down for some unknown reason as they chatted and laughed, their words were all focused on Xiaoyan. On the other hand, Lung Bingshuang, a person who was originally of great importance to the Azure Phoenix clan, was mysteriously ignored. During that entire process, Lung Bingshuang's face reddened. Naturally, she understood some things from the gazes of those people. Other than feeling shame and anger in her heart, she could only vent her anger onto Xiaoyan. Taking advantage of the time when he was happily chatting and drinking with the people at the table, Xiaoyan's thigh had already turned purple. Everyone pretended as if nothing had happened. Even when the banquet was over, there were still happy smiles on their faces. Only Xiaoyan, as he helplessly smiled, he couldn't help hugging his swollen thigh. Right now, even walking had become a problem. In the end, only with Lung Bingshuang's support did Xiaoyan return to the room as if he was drunk. In the next few days, Xiaoyan stayed in Blue Eagle City. Naturally, the Murong family treated him with incomparable warmth. Xiaoyan was naturally very happy. In that period of time, Xiaoyan and Lung Bingshuang had quite a bit of fun as well. Only 4 days later did the two of them receive news from the Shilin region. Within the news there weren't too many descriptions, only 4 simple words. Luo Jin has arrived. Chapter 1121. Xiaoyan's heart was immediately filled with joy when he received the news that Luo Jin had sent over. Back then he had not met Luo Jin since the Tianzhu ancient tomb. He did not know just what kind of cultivation that fellow had become after these years. If they were to meet this time around, he would definitely have a good drink with Luo Jin. Carrying the surprise in his heart, Xiaoyan led Leng Bing Shuang to bid farewell to the Mu Rong clan and hurried towards the Shilin region. 3 days later, the two of them returned to the Shilin mountain range. Luo Jin was waiting for Xiaoyan's return. Obviously, there would be a lot of small talk when brothers met. Ha ha, brother Luo Jin, I never thought that you would have already reached the peak of late origin transformation after a few years. You're probably only a step away from returnance. As they approached, the two men gave each other a big hug. Both of their faces revealed heroic smiles. After not seeing each other for several years, not only did their relationship not fade, it had instead deepened with the passage of time. The relationship between men was like a jar of aged wine. It did not need any seasoning. Time was the best winemaker. Hee, I can't compare to you. You're basically a monster. I've only just returned to the western region, and I've already heard that you can even kill returnance experts. I really have no idea how you cultivate, Jianxia laughed. Hearing this, Xiaoyan innocently shrugged his shoulders and did not say anything else. Seeing this, Luo Jin also understood that Xiaoyan had some difficulties in his heart. He laughed out loud and did not say anything more on this issue. Since you've already returned to the western region, I wonder if old man Luo has come as well? Xiaoyan was naturally asking about Luo Ao. Until now, he still remembered the words that Luo Ao had told him back then. If he wanted to completely repair the heavy Shen ruler and the Luo Tian cauldron, he would need some special ingredients. Only Luo Ao was aware of these ingredients. Xiaoyan involuntarily wanted to inquire about them after seeing Luo Jin return this time around. However, to Xiaoyan's disappointment, Luo Ao had already returned to the central region. Now, only Luo Jin remained in the western region. If not for his relationship with Xiaoyan, he would have returned to the central region long ago. After learning that Luo Ao had already returned to the central region, Xiaoyan nodded, but he could not help but feel suspicious. A few months ago, Xinggan of the Alchemist Alliance had also said that he would be going out on a trip, and the Hall Master of the Ghost Hall had died at his hands in order to capture him. Now, even Luo Ao, a force from the central region, had returned to the central region. Why was this? Unknowingly, these forces from the central territory had actually retracted their main forces. Could this be a coincidence? However, just as Xiaoyan was harboring suspicions in his heart, Luo Jin, who was originally laughing with him, gradually withdrew the smile on his face. His expression turned serious as he solemnly said, Xiaoyan, meeting you is only one of my reasons for returning to the western regions this time. The main reason is because of another matter. Hearing this, Xiaoyan immediately raised his eyebrows. A bad premonition quietly rose in his heart. On my way back, I heard that the Sea Cloud Palace, one of the major factions in the southern region, is preparing to annex some of the factions in the southwest border. This includes a city, the Qingyang city. However, according to what I know, the Lu clan in the Qingyang city insists on not submitting to the Sea Cloud Palace. Therefore, the Sea Cloud Palace seems to be planning to act against them. I know that the Lu clan has quite a deep relationship with you, so I hurriedly came to find you. Swoosh. Xiaoyan's expression immediately darkened when Luo Jin said this. Qingyang city. Wasn't that the Lu clan's territory? Other than him, Bai Hua was also there. Moreover, there was also that little girl called Lian. She was another one with the woeful poison body. He had originally planned to find her as a disciple for the fairy doctor. Moreover, he had promised Lu Feng that he would help him protect the Lu clan. Now that they were about to be annihilated, how could he sit by and do nothing? Thank you. This information is extremely important to me. If you hadn't told me today, I'm afraid that I would have to bear this regret for the rest of my life. Xiaoyan clasped his hands towards Luo Jin with a solemn expression. Seeing this, Luo Jin didn't have any intention to stop him. He could understand the meaning behind Xiaoyan's expression. If it wasn't something extremely important, it was impossible for him to completely express the emotions in his heart on his face. That Sea Cloud Palace had really angered Xiaoyan this time. What should we do now? Seeing the expression on Xiaoyan's face, Leng Bingshuang, who was following by the side, also asked with a worried expression. It was only at this moment that Luo Jin noticed the beautiful woman beside Xiaoyan. Feeling the powerful aura within the latter's body that was not inferior to his own, Luo Jin's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. He didn't expect that in just a few years, not only had Xiaoyan become so tyrannical, even the cultivation of the people around him had also reached such a powerful level. Moreover, looking at the way Leng Bingshuang was holding on to Xiaoyan's arm, as long as anyone saw it, they would be able to immediately recognize the relationship between the two. This guy is really... Sensing this, even with Luo Jin's mental state, he couldn't help but feel a trace of envy rise in his heart. Let's go. Let's go to the southern region. Without any hesitation, Xiaoyan straightforwardly spat out these words without even thinking. With one hand holding onto Leng Bingshuang, he turned around and brought Leng Bingshuang towards Leng Chui City. The latter obediently followed beside Xiaoyan, allowing him to hold onto her jade-like hand. The two of them swiftly flew out of the Shilin mountain range. Behind them, Luo Jin hesitated for a moment before hurriedly following. On a mountain peak in the distance, the little fairy doctor, who was wearing a long white dress, gazed at the back of the person who had bitterly waited for his return, only to leave in the blink of an eye. The depths of her beautiful eyes were filled with desolation. It seemed like he no longer needed her by his side. An hour later, Xiaoyan's group swiftly arrived at Leng Chui City. This place was where the formation that connected the western region and the southern region was located. In the entire western region, only through this place could they enter the southern region. However, when the three of them arrived at this place, the scene in front of them instantly caused their faces to become dull. The originally prosperous Leng Chui City was actually a mess at this very moment. The entire city was strangely deathly silent, as if it had just experienced a huge battle. Other than corpses and broken walls that littered the ground, there was nothing left in the entire city. The once prosperous Leng Chui City had now become a dead city. Moreover, what shocked Xiaoyan's group the most was that the transportation formation at the center of the city had actually been forcefully destroyed by some unknown force. In other words, the current them had no way of entering the western region. Chapter 11:22. The faces of Xiaoyan's group involuntarily revealed a shocked expression when they saw the scene in front of them. It was difficult to imagine why Green Jade City had suddenly turned into such a state. Just who was it that committed such a violent act in the city? They were so cruel to the point of massacring the entire city. Moreover, they had even destroyed the most important transportation formation in the city. Damn it! Who the hell did this? Once the teleportation formation was destroyed, Xiaoyan's journey would be blocked. He would not be able to reach the southern region and would not be able to save the Lu family. Could it be him? Just as Xiaoyan was cursing in a deep voice, Luo Jin suddenly thought of something. His gaze suddenly turned and landed on the loft where the Yunin Pavilion was located. At this moment, the Yunin Pavilion had long been reduced to ruins. Naturally, it was impossible to find out anything. However, Luo Jin could guess that the person who had caused all this was probably the person who had been in the loft. Jianghu. Before parting ways with Luo Ao on this trip to the western region, the latter had warned Luo Jin to be careful of Jianghu in Emerald City. Even though Luo Jin did not understand the meaning of Luo Ao's words, he could not help but place all his suspicions on Zhang Yi when he saw the current state of the city. A person whom Luo Ao had specifically warned was probably not a simple person. Soon after, Xiaoyan relied on his enormous spiritual energy to gather wisps of extremely weak black qi in the ruined city. Instantly, his expression became extremely gloomy. Ghost Palace. Luo Jin immediately understood the reason why Luo Ao had warned him to be careful of Zhang Yi. It was likely that Zhang Yi had used his true identity as a member of the Ghost Hall and had borrowed Zhang Yi's body to hide by their side and keep an eye on their movements. Unfortunately, even though they now knew the other party's identity, it was already too late. The entire Emerald City had been destroyed and the teleportation formation had been destroyed. They would not be able to leave the western region. Ghost Palace, it's Ghost Palace again. Even though he had already recognized the other party's identity, Xiaoyan could only grit his teeth and curse angrily since the formation had been destroyed. What should we do now? The teleportation array has been destroyed. We can't enter the southern region. Leng Bingshuang, who was beside Xiaoyan, also clearly felt the rage in Xiaoyan's heart at this moment. While she was worried about this, she could only try her best to calm Xiaoyan's emotions. The more it was at such a moment, the more one had to suppress their inner emotions. Otherwise, once they lost their rationality, they would lose even more. I can try to repair this formation, but it will take a few days. Luo Jin furrowed his brows. Speaking of which, this could be considered as his own negligence. Now that Emerald Green City had been destroyed, the only thing he could do was to try his best to repair the teleportation array. No, I can't wait that long. I have to leave immediately. Otherwise, the Lu clan will be in danger of being exterminated for even a second longer. After being comforted by Leng Bingshuang, Xiaoyan's emotions were temporarily suppressed. However, he did not place his hopes on the teleportation array. A few days' time was enough to determine the outcome. He had to rush to the Lu clan before all of this happened. Xiaoyan could not wait any longer. Xiaoyan's reply left Luo Jin and Leng Bingshuang speechless. Without the help of the formation, how were they going to reach the southern region? Phew, Xiaoyan let out a long breath. He seemed to have made up his mind. If they had to reach the southern region without the help of the teleportation array, it was not completely impossible. However, there were very few people who could use this method. That was, to destroy the regional boundary. As long as they used the purest strength to directly destroy the regional boundary, Xiaoyan and the others would be able to freely enter and exit the two regions before it gathered the energy of heaven and earth to restore itself. However, it was practically impossible for Xiaoyan to achieve this with his current cultivation. Even if he used the void path, it was impossible to pass through the boundary without any obstructions. Since ancient times, all those who had attempted to pass through the barrier of a region could only rely on their great strength to forcefully shatter a hole in the barrier of a region other than relying on a formation. Now Xiaoyan needed to use this method in order to enter the southern region. Brother Xiao, don't tell me you. When he thought of that, even with Luo Jin's temperament, he could not help but reveal an expression of shock. Let alone others, even if he used everything he had, he would not be able to destroy the regional boundary. However, if it was Xiaoyan, even though his heart was unwilling to believe it, Luo Jin's subconscious still had an indescribable feeling. It was as though all the impossible things that were placed in front of Xiaoyan would present a chance. Perhaps Xiaoyan could really do it. At the same time, Leng Bingshuang by the side also tightly clenched her white hands. Her pretty eyes were filled with worry as she looked at Xiaoyan. She was clearly aware of Xiaoyan's character. Once he had decided on something, it would be very difficult for him to change his mind. The thing that she was most worried about was that it was fine if the region barrier could be successfully broken. However, if it failed, it was likely that Xiaoyan would suffer an even greater backlash. Afterwards, Xiaoyan did not say anything else. He turned around and flew towards the south. I'll go as well. Seeing Xiaoyan turn around and leave, Leng Bingshuang hurriedly moved to follow him. However, she was stopped by Xiaoyan. You and Luo Jin stay here. He'll repair the teleportation formation. You need to be on guard against people from the ghost hall. I'll go alone. Once he said those words, Xiaoyan exchanged glances with Luo Jin. The latter immediately nodded heavily upon seeing this. After which, Xiaoyan swiftly left this place with a lightning-like speed. Leng Bingshuang watched Xiaoyan's back as he left from where she stood. Even though her heart was extremely anxious, she could only obediently remain there. Soon after, Luo Jin also placed his attention on the destroyed transportation formation in front of him. Although the teleportation formation had been destroyed, its original formation was still there. As long as the damaged part was repaired, the teleportation formation could still be used. However, with Luo Jin's current strength, it would take several days to repair the teleportation formation. On the other side, Xiaoyan was using his fastest speed to fly to the south. In less than 15 minutes, he had arrived in front of a natural golden energy barrier. When he raised his head and looked over, he could see no end to the golden barrier. It stood between the sky and the earth. It was just like a wall that connected the sky and the earth, separating the southern and southern regions from each other. This was the so-called Zhou region boundary. Chapter 11:23. Xiaoyan's eyes were filled with determination as he gazed at the golden wall before him. In reality, the western and southern regions were not as far apart as he had imagined. However, due to the barrier, the distance between the two regions was like the distance between heaven and earth. No one could travel back and forth between the two regions without the use of a teleportation formation. Of course, this was only a saying that had been passed down by most people. Even without the assistance of a teleportation formation, it was not impossible to pass through the barrier by relying on one's strength. However, this was dependent on one's strength. This point seemed to have imperceptibly once again explained the importance of strength on this continent to everyone. Powerful strength was the past that every place on the continent would definitely acknowledge. Even something as powerful as the force of the heavens and the earth would be unable to stop it if it was sufficiently powerful. Huff! Xiaoyan slowly exhaled as he looked at the dense energy barrier in front of him. At this moment, a ripple involuntarily rose in the bottom of Xiaoyan's heart despite his mental fortitude when he personally faced the Zhou region barrier. In the eyes of many experts, the provincial domain barrier was an existence that could not be broken. It had stood in the world for countless years. No one knew how it had been formed, but everyone knew that it was powerful. It was not something that anyone could touch. Anyone who wanted to challenge the might of the provincial domain barrier would definitely have to pay a great price. Even so, Xiaoyan was determined to set foot in the southern region today. Even the force of the heavens and the earth would not be able to stop him from going over. On the other side of the golden barrier, the land that could be vaguely seen was the southern region. How could the so-called force of the heavens and the earth make him retreat so easily? If he did not fight, he would never be able to break through it. Mammoth technique activate. In the next moment, a world-shaking roar burst out from Xiaoyan's mouth. Raging flames burned in the depths of Xiaoyan's eyes, and a huge golden figure stood between the heavens and the earth. Facing the golden barrier, Xiaoyan suddenly clenched his fist, and a terrifying force rapidly condensed in his palm. It had the power to shatter the heavens and the earth. Ferocious heavenly flames burned vigorously on his fist, melting everything. Even space would be incinerated into nothingness. Level 8 collapse. A thunderous roar came from his throat. At the same time, his huge fist heavily smashed down, ruthlessly smashing into the golden barrier in front of him. The powerful force immediately turned into circles of seemingly solid energy ripples that rapidly spread out. Just as Xiaoyan's fist was about to leave a dent on the golden barrier, before Xiaoyan could catch his breath, an even more ferocious force suddenly shot out from within the barrier like a volcanic eruption and ruthlessly smashed into Xiaoyan's body. Bam! With a loud muffled sound, Xiaoyan's body was immediately sent flying. The mammoth technique dissipated in an instant, and a mouthful of blood involuntarily spurted out from his mouth. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyan's face turned deathly pale. Cough, 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 cough. After a series of violent coughs, Xiaoyan crawled out of the huge pit that was smashed out with some difficulty. He coughed out a few more mouthfuls of blood and hurriedly swallowed a pill. Only then did his expression become extremely grave as his gaze once again landed on the golden barrier that had returned to its original state. It must be said that this Zhou region barrier was much stronger than Xiaoyan had imagined. Originally, he thought that with just his punch earlier, even if he was unable to shatter the barrier, he should at least be able to penetrate half of the barrier's thickness. However, after this attempt, Xiaoyan finally understood that he had greatly underestimated the toughness of this barrier. It was impossible for him to shatter it by relying on brute force alone. Instead, he would end up receiving a barrage of attacks from this barrier. It could be said that the losses outweighed the gains. In the end, there was only one method that Xiaoyan could think of. Unless he could shatter this region's barrier in one strike, he could only continue like this without knowing the foundation. It was simply not a solution to wait and see. A full-force attack was Xiaoyan's only choice now. With this thought in mind, Xiaoyan wiped off the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth. As he refined the pill in his body to heal his injuries, he freed up his hands. With a piu sound, each of his hands held a type of heavenly flame. After which, under Xiaoyan's control, the two types of heavenly flames began to slowly merge. And this move was Xiaoyan's trump card, the Angry Buddha Lotus Flame. Other than this move, Xiaoyan could not think of any other Do technique that could possess such might. He only had one chance. If he did not use his full force, the price was definitely not something that he could bear. Therefore, using the Angry Buddha Lotus Flame was also imperative. A moment later, an extremely exquisite fire lotus was agglomerated and formed between Xiaoyan's hands. As it floated and rotated, the invisible space was easily torn apart. Under this seemingly harmless and exquisite appearance, there was a terrifying destructive force that caused one's courage to shatter. After which, under Xiaoyan's expectations, the fire lotus slowly floated out from his palm. It was like a butterfly that had just broken out of its cocoon as it gently flew towards the region's barrier. During this process, Xiaoyan's heart was incomparably nervous. He was naturally extremely clear about the might of the Angry Buddha Lotus Flame. If even this attack was unable to break the region's barrier, it was likely that not only would he be unable to enter the southern region, even his life would be in danger. Under Xiaoyan's anxious gaze, the fire lotus and the golden barrier slowly came into contact. Boom. An extremely terrifying storm of destruction swept out. Powerful energy viciously slammed against the region's barrier. In the blink of an eye, the region was reduced to endless darkness. Everything in the surroundings was destroyed. Even the majestic region's barrier shook violently. The powerful force had clearly succeeded in shaking the power of the world. Xiaoyan could not help but reveal an excited smile when he saw this. This continued until the powerful storm of energy completely dispersed. As the storm swept out, Xiaoyan's vision cleared up. Half of the world had been destroyed beyond recognition. On the other hand, the region's barrier actually remained the same. This, In an instant, Xiaoyan's entire body solidified on the spot like a stone statue. It was unexpected that even his greatest trump card was unable to shatter the barrier of this region. However, soon after, just as Xiaoyan was filled with disappointment, a gentle crack suddenly rang out from the region's barrier. Afterwards, with a bang, the thick region's barrier suddenly exploded, revealing a gap that was just large enough for a person to pass through. In this way, the path to the southern region was completely laid out in front of Xiaoyan. Chapter 11:24. While Xiaoyan's side had broken the boundary of the region and was preparing to enter the southern region, a group of people from the southern region were using an extremely fast speed to fly to the southwestern border. The leader of the group was an old man with long gray hair. His face was somewhat shady, and his sunken, turbid eyes contained specks of golden light, giving him a somewhat strange appearance. The most shocking thing was that this old man's cultivation was clearly only that of a 9-star Do-D. However, the auras of the other two old men behind him had already reached the origin transformation realm. The remaining people behind them might not be able to compare with the 3 people in the front row, but they were all top experts among the Do-D class. Their strength could not be underestimated. The group flew in the sky for a long time until an origin transformation expert behind the old man curiously asked, "Master, there's a group of people in Blue Sun City. It's not bad that there's an origin transformation expert in Azure Sun City, but there doesn't seem to be a need for so many of us. With me and Xinyan working together, we'll definitely be able to deal with all of them." "That's right, Master Mo. The palace master seems to be making a big fuss this time. It's not like we've never met an origin transformation expert before. With the 2 of us working together, what can't we deal with?" To the side, the old man called Xinyan laughed. His face was filled with confidence, as if the operation this time did not put any pressure on him at all. "If it's just killing them all, it'll naturally be fine if it's just the 2 of you. However, the palace master has already given the order that one of the people in Azure Sun City must be brought back alive. That person is that origin transformation expert. Do you think you can bring him back alive?" Hearing the words of the 2 people behind him, the gray-haired old man coldly snorted. His words caused the 2 of them to become speechless. If the other party did not intend to self-destruct, they might be able to do so, but if that person intended to self-destruct, it would be very difficult for them to stop him. Very quickly, this group of people arrived outside Qingyang City. At the same time, the Lu family in the city had already noticed the arrival of this group of people. All the experts in the family moved out and flew into the sky to confront the group of people outside the city. The person in the lead was Bai Hua. These fellows really don't know when to stop. Lu Huabai, who was standing next to Bai Hua, looked at the group of people in front of him with a gloomy expression. All these years, the Azure Cloud Mansion had constantly sent powerhouses to attack his Green Sun City. However, due to Bai Hua, in addition to the arrival of Qin Zhong and the others, the Azure Cloud Mansion's powerhouses were defeated time and time again. Due to this reason, the Green Sun City's reputation had spread rapidly in the surrounding cities. The first result of this phenomenon was that the Lu clan's external businesses were extremely profitable, allowing the Lu clan to become even more prosperous than before. But half a year ago, this state of affairs was finally broken by an even more terrifying force. It was Sea Cloud Palace. As the greatest organization in the southwest, Sea Cloud Palace had begun to expand their territory without any limit since a year and a half ago. Sea Cloud Palace originally only occupied a portion of the prosperous cities, but in just a few short months, they had swallowed up over a dozen cities in the surroundings. Their methods were so ruthless that it was despicable. Unfortunately, faced with Sea Cloud Palace's brutality, the original clans and organizations in the cities could only surrender or die. In order to survive, many powers on the southwest border could only choose to endure or surrender. There was no such thing as spectators because everyone was powerless to protect themselves. Even passers-by on the side of the road could be sentenced to death by Sea Cloud Palace in the next moment for a groundless crime. For a moment, the entire southwest seemed to have fallen into hell. However, among the many organizations, only the Lu clan of Qingyang City was able to remain unscathed. This was because the Lu clan possessed a super expert at the late stage of the origin transformation realm. Because of Bai Hua, the few groups that Sea Cloud Palace had sent had all been mercilessly beaten back. The successive defeats had alarmed the upper echelons of Sea Cloud Palace. As a result, they were able to send out 2 origin transformation experts this time, as well as the leader, a gray-haired old man who was only a 9-star Do-D. "Be careful. Our opponents this time are much stronger than the previous few waves." Bai Hua frowned as he glanced at the 2 origin transformation experts. Even he would find it extremely difficult to fight against two alone. Moreover, there seemed to be someone even more difficult to deal with in this group. Bai Hua's expression was somewhat ugly as she stared at the gray-haired old man. Although this fellow's aura was only that of a 9-star Do D, the strange aura that was faintly emitted from his body caused her to be extremely shocked. There's something strange about this fellow? Bai Hua quietly spoke in her heart. She turned her gaze and immediately collided with Zhongli, whose expression was similarly ugly. Clearly, the other party had also sensed the strength of the few people on the other side. Adding this to the group of elite Do D behind them, it was likely that this battle would be even more difficult than they had imagined. If Xiaoyan was here, these old bastards would be nothing. However, at this moment, a cute little head suddenly climbed up from Bai Hua's shoulder. Under the sunlight, an exquisite and pretty face was revealed. A pair of crystal-like bright eyes coldly stared at the group of people on the other side. The words that came out of her mouth caused everyone present to involuntarily recall the person who had not been heard of for many years. Xiaoyan. I wonder how much he has grown. If he was here, there might still be a chance to turn things around. Qin Zhong's face was filled with disappointment as he recalled Xiaoyan in his heart. He involuntarily recalled the scene when Xiaoyan had saved him back then. Although he was still a young man, the strength that was contained in that body was something that many of the older generation who had been famous for a long time could not compare with. It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. If Xiaoyan was here, this group of people would definitely not be able to withstand even one of his attacks. The young lady was unwilling to give up as she opened her mouth. On the other hand, Bai Hua gently pressed the young lady's exquisite little head down. Alright, Xianxia, quickly go back. Remember to look after that girl, Lian. Leave the matters here to us. This young lady was surprisingly the one who had left the Mu Rong family alone back then and traveled far to the southwest border. Murong Xianxia. Haha, I believe you must be Bai Hua. For the past half a year, your name has resounded like thunder in my ears. With your own strength, you have repeatedly repelled several waves of my Sea Cloud Palace teams. You already possess such strength at such a young age. Kid, in my entire life I have only seen two people like you. You are the second. At this moment, the Sea Cloud Palace team outside the city slowly walked forward, arriving in the air less than 100 feet away from Bai Hua and the others. The two sides stared at each other from a distance. When the gray-haired old man's words rang out, he involuntarily lifted his hand and stroked his left arm. A ruthless look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Oh, is that so? Then I think it's time for you to stop here. I will make sure that your memory is forever fixed at this moment. Bai Hua coldly snorted when she heard this. At the same time, the Genesis Chi in the vortex in her body abruptly gushed out of her body. A powerful aura turned into an invisible storm with Bai Hua at the center, oppressing the gray-haired old man and the others. Chapter 11:25. The curtains to the Battle of the Qingyang City began. The two groups, which had a total of nearly 30 people, began an intense collision in the sky above Qingyang City. Bai Hua relied on her own strength to fight against two origin transformation experts. With her advanced origin transformation cultivation, she was not at a disadvantage for a short period of time. As for Qin Zhong and the others, they each faced an elite Do D from the Sea Cloud Palace. Among them, Zhongli faced the gray-haired old man. Ha ha ha, Zhongli, it has been many years since we last met. It is unexpected that you have actually come here. Zhongli, who was also a 9-star Do D, violently collided with the gray-haired old man. The two of them immediately separated. However, the moment the two of them separated, the gray-haired old man spat out an extremely strange sentence from his mouth. Zhongli immediately frowned when he heard these words. Although the person in front of him was filled with a strange aura, he did not seem to have come into contact with him. What did he mean by saying these words? It seems like we have never met before. Today's battle will definitely be the first time we have clashed. How can there be such a thing as meeting again? You have chosen the wrong person if you want to disturb my mind. Zhongli hesitated for an instant before letting out a cold snort. His body flashed and he arrived in front of the gray-haired old man in the blink of an eye. He raised his hand and viciously slammed it down on the other party's chest. Ha ha ha, as expected, you don't even recognize me now. Following a strange laugh, the gray-haired old man's body wiggled strangely. He actually used an extremely strange posture to dodge Zhongli's attack. Zhongli's face did not show any surprise when he saw this. His hand swept through empty space as his body suddenly twisted. He turned around and kicked out once again. However, at the critical moment, the gray-haired old man used his left hand to firmly grab his ankle. The powerful force was actually forcefully dispersed by him. What? Zhongli was startled. Before he could react, the person in front of him pulled forcefully pulling his body in front of him. Soon after, his right hand flashed with a golden light and arrived in front of him. A palm imprinted itself on his chest. Boom! Zhongli was immediately blown away by the palm strike. Strangely, while Zhongli's left hand was filled with power, his right hand seemed weak and powerless. It was very difficult to injure him. As a result, the gray-haired old man's palm strike only caused his vital energy and blood to churn. If it were anyone else, even if they were not heavily injured, they would definitely suffer from the palm strike. Humph, damn it. Seeing that Zhongli was fine, the gray-haired old man cursed angrily with an unwillingness in his heart. Soon after, his right hand was swiftly raised. A mysterious golden formation was suddenly formed in his palm. Zhongli, I'll make you remember who I am soon. Zhongli spat out a venomous voice. In the next moment, golden light flickered around him at some unknown time. It quickly turned into a cylindrical barrier of light, trapping him within. When Zhongli attempted to break this strange formation, he was shocked to discover that he was unable to break this strange formation with his strength. No matter how he attacked, this formation did not break at all. Instead, a portion of its strength was reflected back to him. The appearance of this scene caused him to involuntarily recall a certain person in the past. It was also because of this formation that he had once fallen into endless pain. God-trapping formation. Zhongli, do you still remember? In the ancient savage city, Buzz. The moment the gray-haired old man uttered these words, the scenes from back then immediately surfaced deep within Zhongli's mind. Soon after, he involuntarily cried out involuntarily. Muhan. You are Muhan. How is this possible? Muhan was one of the top figures in the ancient savage city back then. Unfortunately, he met Xiaoyan and fell into dire straits. In fact, he even lost an arm because of Xiaoyan. Back then, Muhan had lost an arm because of Xiaoyan in the ancient savage city, causing him to become a cripple. However, not only did he change his appearance, he even regained his lost left arm. You didn't expect it, right? I'm back. Not only is my left arm back, even my cultivation has become even more powerful than before. Zhongli, Lu Du and Qin Zhong, I'll start with the three of you today. As for Gu Li and the rest, I'll sooner or later return to take revenge on them. After revealing his identity, Muhan's face immediately revealed a ferocious expression. His pair of shady old eyes were filled with the flames of revenge. Back then he had lost an arm because of Xiaoyan and was almost a cripple. In order to survive and take revenge, he left the ancient savage city. After a few twists and turns, he joined the Sea Cloud Palace. Due to certain reasons, he even borrowed this body to be reborn. His left arm could once again be used and its strength was even greater than before. Unfortunately, the price he had to pay was that his right arm would lose a large portion of its strength. Other than using a battle formation, he would not be able to use any Do techniques. However, in order to take revenge and obtain greater strength, he was willing to do anything. He was even willing to betray himself in order to obtain more strength. No one was aware of the pain during this process. Muhan treated all of this as a calamity that Xiaoyan had brought him. It was also because of this that he felt an even greater hatred for everyone within the ancient city. Today, other than him, everyone else in this Qingyang city will die. Muhan's face was ferocious as he pointed at Bai Hua. Although his hatred had almost drowned out his consciousness, he was still quite fearful of that palace master. Hence he had no choice but to hold back. Waves of powerful spiritual strength immediately surged out of Muhan's body after these words left his mouth. It formed a turbulent energy wave that instantly shattered the invisible empty space. As this spiritual strength surged out, many huge golden light pillars swiftly shot out and formed a strange formation that covered everyone in the battle circle. When one looked at Muhan again, a palm-sized white formation plate had appeared in his hand. The reason why those light pillars were able to spread so quickly was mainly because of this formation plate in the middle. Otherwise, with Muhan's current ability, it would be insufficient for him to swiftly form such a large formation. When the formation was completely formed, Ling Tian's light engulfed the entire Qingyang city. Beams of energy intertwined with each other, forming a huge 8-pointed star. Every node in the star was filled with surging energy. As long as Muhan willed it, the huge killing formation would be activated immediately. Ancient Heaven Killing Spirit Formation activate. Chapter 11:26. Following Muhan's explosive roar, Ling Tian's enormous formation suddenly began to revolve at this moment. Within the enormous 8-sided star, there was a small 7-sided star as well as a couple of small star-shaped formations. The layers of formations surrounded each other. When the outermost 8-sided star began to revolve, the formations within it also began to revolve. Golden light blossomed and it was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. Even the color of the sky changed. After the ancient heaven soul-slaying array began to operate, waves of surging natural energy between the heavens and the earth were drawn by the array and continuously gathered within it. A frightening murderous aura also spread along with the gathering of these energies, forming an invisible barrier that enveloped the entire sky above Qingyang City. Bai Hua and the rest in the sky noticed the change in the situation and immediately gathered their gazes. They raised their heads and saw the Lingtian killing formation that was filled with a murderous aura. The expressions on everyone's faces immediately changed. Soon after, Bai Hua's gaze shifted to Zhongli, who was trapped by Mu Han. Zhongli had no chance of breaking through the latter's formation no matter how hard he tried. In other words, based on the current situation, they had already lost Zhongli. The only person left on the battlefield who could contend against the two origin transformation experts in Mu Han was Bai Hua. Once Bai Hua was defeated, Qingyang City would completely collapse. However, just as Bai Hua was thinking about how to delay the battle, balls of golden energy balls suddenly fell from the sky like meteorites from the astonishing killing array in the sky. They smashed into the city below without any target. Instantly, countless people who were watching the battle and the Liu family's residents were caught in the crossfire in the blink of an eye. Under the bombardment of the countless energy balls, the countless spectators in the city lost their lives under the bombardment of the array. The originally bustling Qingyang City was turned into ruins in just a few minutes. Corpses were strewn all over the place and dilapidated fences and walls were in shambles. It could be said to be a miserable sight. Even Liu Huabai and the others who were fighting intensely in the sky had also fallen into the city due to the chaotic bombardment. Although they were not seriously injured, they had suffered quite a lot. Additionally, the other party's elite Do Di continued to give chase. The battle quickly fell into a disadvantage. Clearly they would not be able to endure for long. Damn it. Bai Hua couldn't help but grit her teeth and curse in her heart when she saw this scene. The killing formation in the sky was truly troublesome. If it was allowed to continue operating, then even he would be unable to avoid being heavily injured. Even though the cultivation of Qin Zhong and the others were above Liu Huabai's group, they themselves were surrounded by danger when faced with such a situation. It was already barely possible for them to take care of themselves, let alone rescue Zhongli. As such, the only person who still had a chance to save Zhongli was Bai Hua. However, just as Bai Hua was about to move, the two origin transformation experts appeared in front of her in a flash. At the same time, Mu Han also stood between the two of them, staring at her with a sneer on his face. Ha ha, you want to save people? I think you should think about yourself first. With a sneer, Mu Han waved his hand and the two beside him immediately shot towards Bai Hua. Their figures were just like phantoms as they arrived in front of Bai Hua in the blink of an eye. They formed a pincer attack from the left and right, viciously bombarding the important parts of Bai Hua's body. Even with Bai Hua's cultivation, she did not dare to be the slightest bit careless in the face of these two powerful attacks. Genesis Chi surged from her body as she blocked the attacks. While the three separated, Mu Han's figure had unknowingly appeared behind Bai Hua. Golden light blossomed from his right hand as it viciously slammed down on Bai Hua's back. Scram! Bai Hua's expression darkened as her body violently jerked. Her body twisted in an extremely strange manner as her palm violently collided with the golden light. Boom! As the attack landed, Bai Hua's figure retreated in a miserable manner. Mu Han was also sent flying by Bai Hua's palm. Even though Bai Hua's cultivation in the Tao of Arrays was rather high, he was no match for Bai Hua in a head-on confrontation. Bai Hua's expression was grave as she lowered her head and looked at her charred palm. After clashing with the golden light, she realized that even she was unable to completely block the powerful force contained within. Mu Han's fighting strength was likely not below her own. Furthermore, with the addition of the other two fellows, her life would be in danger in this battle. Sigh. Bai Hua sighed helplessly. At this moment he could only hope that Murong Qianxian would quickly leave with Lian. If not, it would not be a problem for him to fall into a desperate situation, but for Murong Qianxian and Lian, one was extremely important to him, while the other was someone Xiaoyan had entrusted to him to take care of. He could not allow anything to happen to them. As long as the two of them were fine, there was nothing else he had to worry about. Just as Bai Hua was in a daze, the two origin transformation experts charged forward once again. They viciously slammed their palms towards Bai Hua's head one after another. The wind from their palms was so sharp that it was impossible to dodge. Since you guys want my life so much, even if I die, I'll drag you down with me." Returning to her senses, Bai Hua coldly snorted and no longer hesitated. After receiving the two palms head-on, she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. When she raised her head, Mu Han's figure had appeared once again. However, this time Bai Hua did not have any intention of dodging Mu Han's attack. She faced it head-on and viciously slammed her palm towards Mu Han's chest, as if she was willing to trade her life for his. Sensing her opponent's intentions, Mu Han's expression immediately changed slightly. The formation that was originally about to land on Bai Hua's head could only change its direction and collide with Bai Hua's attack once again. Soon after, the two origin transformation experts charged forward once again. As Bai Hua retreated, they each slammed their palms into his chest. Immediately, large mouthfuls of blood spurted out uncontrollably. Bai Hua's face also became deathly pale in an instant. His body heavily smashed into the city below, but even so he did not show any fear. His mouth was filled with blood as he loudly laughed with a vicious expression. "Haha, a group of trash. Is this all you've got? Come again if you have the ability." Bai Hua laughed as he climbed up from the ruins with great difficulty. The three people in the sky also descended before Bai Hua at this moment and stared down at him from above. At this moment, the huge formation in the sky had already dispersed. However, the Qingyang city had already been reduced to ruins. More than half of the Lu clan's people were dead or injured. Even the patriarch and grand elder were heavily injured. As for the others, they had all lost the ability to fight. Seeing Bai Hua fall, the Lu clan of the Qingyang city was finished. "Although it's not bad to deal with someone like you as soon as possible, the palace master has already instructed us to keep you alive before we set off. Thus, we can only trouble you to come with us." Mu Han gently smiled. At the same time, the formation condensed in his palm once again. You want me alive? Haha, I won't let you have your wish." With a sinister laugh, the remaining energy in Bai Hua's body instantly went berserk. His pale face instantly turned red as a powerful energy rapidly flowed within his body. It was as if he was about to self-destruct. "You want to self-destruct?" A faint sneer was heard. Seeing that Mu Han was about to attack, an anxious shout was heard. Then, a beautiful figure immediately entered Mu Han and the others' line of sight. She threw herself into Bai Hua's bosom. "No, you can't die. I don't want you to die. We still have to wait for Xiaoyan to return. Nothing must happen to you before he returns." Hearing this familiar crying voice, Bai Hua's heart trembled. The owner of this voice was Murong Qianxian. That's right. Originally, he had asked Murong Qianxian to leave with Lian. However, he did not expect her to return. Wasn't this like a lamb entering the tiger's den? I didn't expect another one to come. It seems like the relationship between the two of you isn't ordinary. This way things will be much simpler. Seeing this scene, a sinister expression immediately appeared on Mu Han's face. He gave a signal to the two people beside him. The two of them immediately nodded and charged forward. Ignoring Bai Hua's struggles, they forcefully grabbed Murong Qianxian and restrained her. Facing two origin transformation experts, Murong Qianxian naturally did not have any chance of breaking free. Bai Hua also cursed with a face full of hatred. However, the other party did not care about her at all. No matter how she roared, the other party remained indifferent. Looks like you're quite fond of this girl. This way, you won't be willing to see her suffer even the slightest harm, right?" Mu Han said with a sneer. When he saw the furious expression on Bai Hua's face, he felt extremely carefree. When Bai Hua struggled and pounced forward, Mu Han sent her flying with a slap. Dark red blood sprayed out once again. Murong Qianxian could not help but cry out loudly. However, everything seemed so powerless. You want to save her? With your current strength, I'm afraid you don't even have the strength to stand up, let alone save her. If you want her to live, it's best if you obediently follow me. Otherwise, with a strange laugh, Mu Han's dark eyes landed on Murong Qianxian. He extended a bamboo-like finger and the sharp tip of his finger gently brushed past the latter's smooth face. Bai Hua was unable to endure it and a panicked expression immediately appeared on her face. As she screamed, she hurriedly agreed to Mu Han's request without any hesitation. If you had agreed earlier, all this wouldn't have happened. Mu Han sneered as he raised his hand and gently stroked Murong Qianxian's small head. His old face was filled with malevolence. Whoosh! However, in the next instant an ear-piercing sound rang out. Murong Xianxia, who was under the control of the two origin transformation experts, suddenly disappeared. At the same time, Mu Han suddenly let out an extremely miserable shriek. This was because his extended left arm had disappeared along with Murong Xianxia. Chapter 11:27. At this moment, a miserable shriek that pierced the sky suddenly rang out in the ruined Qingyang city. On the side of the street, two origin transformation experts were stunned as they stared at the woman who had suddenly disappeared. They could not help but be startled. Soon after, a painful shriek came from Mu Han's mouth. Only then did the two of them notice the latter. Immediately, shock appeared on their faces. At this moment, Mu Han's left hand that was originally caressing Murong Xianxia, along with his entire arm, had disappeared. Only charred black traces could be seen on his arm. All of the blood that was about to flow out from his arm had been forcibly stopped. However, Mu Han's complexion had turned deathly pale. The pain that reached his soul was unbearable. Even though his spiritual strength was far greater than ordinary people, the pain of losing an arm was something that he could not endure no matter what. Never in his wildest dreams did he imagine that he would suffer the same sin and the same pain twice. Furthermore, the most ironic thing was that even his missing arm was his left arm again. He had paid an enormous price in order to obtain his powerful left arm. Yet he had lost it again. At the same time as this brought Mu Han endless pain, he also felt anger and resentment. Who are you? Mu Han's old face was distorted. The moment he raised his head, two streams of blood flowed out from his eyes. However, the pain in his heart far exceeded this. Today he would make the person who had caused him to lose an arm pay a painful price no matter what. Not far away, a black-robed figure had his back facing the three people. Murong Xianxia, who was in his embrace, had fainted due to the stimulation from before. However, Bai Hua, who was in front of him, was currently stiffly raising her head to stare at the person in front of her. Her face was filled with disbelief. At the same time, there was an indescribable joy at the corner of her mouth. It was as if she was rejoicing that she did not self-destruct earlier. It was also as if she was rejoicing that she was able to see the person in front of her again. The moment he saw the black-robed person in front of him, he understood that since he had returned, the trouble that Qingyang City had encountered today would naturally be easily resolved. He had always believed in this point. Just as Bai Hua was about to say something, the black-robed man extended his hand and handed Bai Hua a pill. Without any hesitation, Bai Hua opened her mouth and swallowed it. On the other side, when Mu Han saw the back of the black-robed man, an indescribable feeling of déjà vu flashed across his heart. At the same time, his furious heart trembled uncontrollably as fear uncontrollably emerged from the depths of his heart. The mysterious black-robed man before him, whom he had yet to see, was actually able to instill fear in him under such circumstances. This caused Mu Han's heart to involuntarily shudder. At the same time, an even greater curiosity rose within him. The more he felt this inexplicable danger, the more he wanted to explore it. Human nature was on full display at this moment. Who are you? Mu Han enunciated each word clearly. Even so, he could still feel the tremor in his voice. Following Mu Han's words, the black-robed person in front of Bai Hua slowly turned around. The face that was covered by the black robe was slowly illuminated by the sunlight. It was Xiaoyan. Buzz. However, the moment Mu Han saw Xiaoyan, his pair of shady old eyes instantly shrunk to the size of a needle tip. Even his heart became sluggish at this moment. His entire person appeared to have turned into a stone statue in an instant. His heart was both shocked and terrified. No matter what, he had never imagined that he would meet Yi Shiwen again at a time like this. Mu Han had imagined the scene of him meeting Xiaoyan again countless times. However, he had never imagined that it would be in such a situation. Based on the speed of Xiaoyan's attack earlier, it was likely that the other party's cultivation had also reached the origin transformation stage. Moreover, it was definitely superior to Bai Hua. Moreover, Mu Han had personally sensed Xiaoyan's frightening fighting strength, which far exceeded his own cultivation. If they were to meet again now, even with Mu Han's current cultivation, he did not have the confidence to defeat Xiaoyan. Fortunately, other than him, there were still the two origin transformation realm experts beside him and over 10 Dodi experts on the battlefield today. If these people were added together with his formation, it might not be difficult to kill the person in front of him. Oh, Xiaoyan. It is unexpected. It is really unexpected. It is actually you. Mu Han's tone was extremely low as he spoke. His pale face was immediately covered by a dark haze. A savage killing intent crazily gathered at this moment. Xiaoyan could not help but frown slightly as he stared at the unfamiliar face of the gray-haired old man. Although this person's appearance was unfamiliar, Xiaoyan could sense from the other party's words, his gaze, and the strange aura from his body. He had definitely met this fellow somewhere before. Of course, their relationship was definitely not good. Otherwise, this fellow would not have said such resentful words. Although I still do not know who you are, it is a fact that you have destroyed this place and injured them. Therefore today you and them will all stay behind. A faint sentence slowly drifted out from Xiaoyan's mouth. However, just as the last sentence left his mouth, the ground beneath his feet suddenly exploded, forming a hole. Large cracks spread out like a spider web. Xiaoyan's figure also strangely disappeared from the spot. Bang! Almost at the same time, the elite Do-Di from the Sea Cloud Palace, who were following closely behind, appeared to have suddenly received a heavy blow. Numerous figures smashed heavily into the city below like meteorites falling from the sky and were buried deep under the ground. With just one strike, the dozen or so Do-Di from Sea Cloud Palace had lost their ability to fight in an instant. Even their bodies had received heavy injuries. Their auras were extremely weak, as if they could die at any moment. Moreover, the most shocking thing was that all of this had happened in an instant. By the time Mu Han and the two origin transformation experts behind him recovered, Xiaoyan had already returned to his original position. His indifferent gaze was still watching them as if he had never left. Gulp. At this moment, the two origin transformation experts involuntarily swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Such a frightening speed was something that even they were unable to catch up to. It was very difficult to imagine that if Xiaoyan had chosen to attack them, it was likely that their current situation would not be any better than the dozen Do-Dis. Chapter 11:28. Now that I've dealt with those small fries, it's your turn. Raising his head, Xiaoyan's gaze landed on the three people in front of him. Killing intent surged within his calm, pitch-black eyes. If he had not arrived in time, it was likely that the entire Qingyang city would have been destroyed. Even Bai Hua and Murong Qianshan's lives would have been threatened as a result. This kind of thing was something that Xiaoyan could not tolerate. Bai Hua was extremely important to Xiaoyan. Naturally, he would not ignore her. Murong Qianshan was the pearl of the Murong clan. Although she had been stolen from the clan, this matter was related to him. Finding her was within the scope of his responsibility. If anything happened to Murong Qianshan, he would not be able to absolve himself of the blame even if he died 10,000 times. Fortunately, Xiaoyan's arrival had put an end to all of this trouble. Xiaoyan, don't be too happy yet. Even if those people are dead, we still have two origin transformation experts here. Including me, you won't be able to escape from us alone. Forcefully suppressing the hatred in his heart, Mu Han spoke with a cold expression. At the same time he quickly raised his right hand. The storage ring on his finger flickered and another formation disc appeared in his hand. Although ordinary formations were quick to set up, their power would be limited to a certain extent. If a powerful formation was set up on the spot, it would definitely consume a large amount of time, which would be extremely disadvantageous to a battle. However, the formation disc perfectly combined these two factors. While being able to set up a powerful formation, the formation disc that was engraved on it could also greatly reduce the time needed to set up the formation. Coupled with the unique convenience of formations, it had become a must-have item for many experts on the continent when they went out to train. However, compared to ordinary people, only in the hands of a true formation master would a formation disc be able to display its brilliance. Xiaoyan, today I'll let you experience the power of a 5th-tier formation master. As Mu Han let out a low roar, a large amount of spiritual force poured into the formation disc in his hand. In an instant, golden light shot out like a miniature sun. At almost the same time, mysterious golden inscriptions condensed under Mu Han's feet, forming a semicircular formation that enveloped Mu Han's body. Soon after, the mysterious formation once again appeared in the air above Xiaoyan's head. This time around, a large, strange thundercloud gathered from all directions and covered Xiaoyan's head. It was impossible for him to dodge it. Xiaoyan's face was covered by the thundercloud. He was not able to dodge it. Xiaoyan, this is a 5th-tier formation that I have specially prepared for you, 9-layered lightning formation. No matter how strong you are, you won't be able to dodge it. Coupled with the two beside me, hee. Forget about them, even you will have to die today. Mu Han's face immediately revealed a ferocious expression when he saw that the formation in his hand had been successfully formed. These 9 types of lightning formations were a rank 5 formation that he had spent a great amount of time to research. He had even borrowed the help of heavenly lightning a couple of times in order to create it. The strength that it possessed was definitely among the top of the middle class, even if it could not be ranked among the top of all the rank 5 formations. Hence, he believed that he would be able to deal with Xiaoyan by relying on this 9-layered lightning formation. Mu Han was very clear that Xiaoyan was of the fire attribute. Coupled with the assistance of the heavenly flame, the strength that he possessed far exceeded that of an ordinary person. As for the lightning attribute, it was also known for its offensive power. The destructive power that it possessed was also extremely terrifying. Hence, Mu Han wanted to use the lightning formation to temporarily suppress Xiaoyan's heavenly flame. Coupled with the 2 origin transformation experts beside him, dealing with Xiaoyan would be a piece of cake. Rumble. Thunderclouds churned in all directions in the sky above Xiaoyan's head. Numerous bolts of lightning that contained a golden glow repeatedly flowed within the thunderclouds. A powerful pressure descended from the sky, causing Xiaoyan to feel a faint pressure. TSK, is this a 5th-tier formation? Its presence is truly shocking. Probably even regular returnance experts wouldn't dare to be careless with the power of this formation. Master Mu, I never thought that your comprehension of formations would have reached such a level, Xianxia said with a smile. Even with the cultivation of the 2 origin transformation experts, they could not help but inwardly gasp as they stared at the oppressive thunderclouds in the sky. This formation was only at the middle tier of Class 5 formations. Just how powerful would an even more powerful formation be? This old man has waited for this day for a very long time. Since he has delivered himself to me today, I'll settle the old and new debts together. Hearing this, Mu Han's old face could not help but reveal an arrogant smile. As a 5th-tier formation master, he had the right to be arrogant. Once he broke through to the 6th tier in the future, let alone origin transformation experts, even origin kings and origin emperors would have to be wary of him. Now that the 9-fold lightning formation has been activated, I still need to control the formation disc. So, I'll have to rely on the 2 of you to deal with Xiaoyan. Haha, don't worry, Master Mu. No matter how fast this brat is, he is currently within the lightning formation. There is no way for him to dodge. With the 2 of us working together, there definitely won't be any problems dealing with him. The 2 of them laughed heartily. Seeing Mu Han take out such a powerful formation, the 2 of them naturally felt more confident. If they were still shocked by Xiaoyan's speed before, then with the assistance of the 9-fold lightning formation, their fear of Xiaoyan instantly decreased by half. Naturally, they no longer had any misgivings in their hearts. Soon after, the 2 of them charged toward Xiaoyan, who was within the lightning formation. In the blink of an eye, the 2 of them had already entered the lightning formation. They were only a few dozen meters away from Xiaoyan. At the same time, under Mu Han's control, bolts of lightning in the sky viciously smashed down on Xiaoyan. The powerful force even shattered the invisible space. The powerful destructive force was like a golden spear that could destroy the world as it descended from the sky, aiming directly at Xiaoyan's head. However, in the face of the lightning above his head, Xiaoyan ignored it. His gaze landed on the 2 people in front of him. While he sneered, his body shook as he instantly used the giant elephant art. His hands opened into 2 palms as he faced the incoming lightning head-on. He's actually not taking any action to block the 9-fold lightning formation. He's really courting death. The faces of the 2 involuntarily revealed a surprised expression when they saw this scene. Soon after, the palms of both parties collided. At the same time, the soul-stirring thunderbolt above Xiaoyan's head instantly entered his body. What? Seeing that the thunderbolt had actually entered Xiaoyan's body without causing any splashes, Mu Han and the 2 origin transformation experts revealed shocked expressions on their faces. This was especially the case for Mu Han. The moment the thunderbolt entered Xiaoyan's body, not only did it not cause any splashes, but the connection between him and the thunderbolt had also been severed in an instant. Soon after, Xiaoyan let out a cold laugh while Mu Han and the other 2 were feeling shocked by this situation that had suddenly appeared. His mouth suddenly let out a loud cry. Sorry, your lightning is useless against me, so I'll return it to you right now. With that, Xiaoyan's palms shook, forcing the 2 people in front of him back. At the same time, 2 bolts of lightning suddenly shot out from his palms and heavily struck the chests of the 2 origin transformation experts. Chapter 1129. Puqi. When the 2 palms landed heavily on the 2 origin transformation experts, the powerful force of lightning immediately surged into their bodies like a volcanic eruption and began to wreak havoc. A powerful force violently rampaged within their bodies. Even though they had already done their best to resist the lightning energy, their internal organs were still injured in the end. They could not help but spit out blood from their mouths, and their faces quickly turned pale. The situation that had suddenly occurred in front of them was something that the two of them and Muhan had never expected. After the thunderbolt strength had entered Xiaoyan's body without holding back, not only did it not cause any harm to Xiaoyan, but it had also taken away his control as its master and used that strength on the two origin transformation experts. Although the force of lightning was greatly reduced after being split into two, the terrifying destructive force coupled with the fact that the two of them did not have any extra defensive measures allowed the force of lightning to erupt with its full strength. After suffering this attack, even with the Qinyan duo's cultivation, even if they did not end up seriously injured, their fighting strength would definitely be reduced by over half. In this way their chances of victory against Xiaoyan would be even lower. Currently, the 9-layered lightning formation was no longer of any use to Xiaoyan. Stubbornly borrowing the strength of the lightning formation would only cause them to end up in trouble for no reason. God damn it. Why is it like this? In the distance, Muhan stared at the scene before him in disbelief. When he thought back to what had happened after the lightning had entered Xiaoyan's body, he felt even more disbelief. Xiaoyan was clearly of the fire attribute, so why was the force of lightning completely ineffective against him after entering his body? Instead, it was being used by him. Muhan had never imagined such a result. No matter how powerful Xiaoyan was, it was impossible for him to be so heaven-defying. After all, he was still an origin transformation expert. It was a pity that Muhan did not know that Xiaoyan had been using the force of lightning to cleanse his body. His body already possessed a certain degree of immunity to the force of lightning. On the other hand, the lightning that Muhan had used was only the most common type of heavenly lightning. No matter how much lightning he gathered, its power was still limited. It was impossible for him to use it to harm Xiaoyan. As for the connection between the force of lightning and Muhan, it had been easily erased by Xiaoyan with the help of the heavenly flame. As a Class 5 soul, it was not difficult for Xiaoyan to accomplish this, not to mention that the battlefield was within his body. Thus, from the looks of it, the Class 5 9-layered lightning formation had already lost its original use to Xiaoyan. Using such a level of lightning before Xiaoyan was completely useless. Only after Xiaoyan withdrew his hand did the bodies of Qinyan's duo climb up from the ruins below them. At this moment, the auras of the two of them had been damaged. Their fighting strength had also been greatly reduced. However, they were after all origin transformation experts. Even so, the two of them still possessed some confidence when facing Xiaoyan with their strength. Cough cough cough. Brat, we will remember this debt. In the future we will definitely make you pay back several times over. Qinyan clenched his teeth as he spat out these words. After exchanging glances with the other person, he quickly retreated while facing Xiaoyan. Haha, it seems like the two of you did not understand what I just said. When I said that I want the two of you to stay here forever, it means that the two of you must die today. Upon seeing this, Xiaoyan curled his lips and sneered, his eyes filled with mockery. The expressions of Qinyan's duo suddenly changed when these words were uttered. Their pale white faces immediately became gloomy. By taking the initiative to withdraw, they had already admitted their defeat today. However, from the looks of Xiaoyan's intention, it appeared that he did not intend to allow them to leave. Brat, don't be too arrogant. Even if the two of us brothers are injured, it is impossible for you to easily kill the two of us with your cultivation. If you dare to use force, be careful that even you will not be able to bear the consequences. A life and death struggle is not a good choice. Qinyan's expression was extremely stormy as he slowly spoke. The Genesis Chi in his body began to circulate once again. When the Genesis Chi flowed through the injured meridians, waves of intense pain immediately spread, causing the two to grit their teeth in anger as hatred filled their hearts. Teacher Mu, help me. Qinyan continued to gather the Genesis Chi in his body as he turned his head and shouted at Muhan, who was still within the golden light barrier. He clearly understood just how terrifying Xiaoyan was. If they really charged forward without any preparation, the two of them would very likely end up in the same predicament as before. As a precaution, they had no choice but to seek help from Muhan. They believed that with the aid of this rank 5 formation master, it would be much easier for them to deal with Xiaoyan. Muhan hesitated for a moment upon hearing their pleas, before taking out 2 more formation discs with a strange expression on his face. He continuously poured the Genesis Chi and spirit power in his body into them. Golden light blossomed, transforming into 2 formation barriers that protected the Qinyan duo's bodies. With the protection of the formation, the Qinyan duo seemed to have donned a thick layer of armor. Light swirled around them, making them look like golden immortals descending into the world. However, Everyone knew that these two individuals who seemed to be the embodiment of justice were actually the cause of the deathly stillness and murderous aura in the city. Humph, brat, do you still dare to repeat what you just said? With the formation around them, the duo's condition seemed to improve along with it. At the same time, their confidence also increased significantly. What's done can't be undone. I never take back anything I've said. I've already said that the two of you must stay here today. No matter how much you stubbornly resist, my will never change. Xiaoyan's expression was solemn in the face of the duo's provocation. As his words rang out, his figure abruptly disappeared from the spot. His hands were tightly clenched into fists as he activated the giant elephant art. When he reappeared, a giant fist viciously slammed into the duo's bodies. Light immediately blossomed from the golden formation. The majority of the power behind Xiaoyan's punch was blocked by the formation. From this, one could tell that this formation was no ordinary object. A rank 4 formation, the Diamond Bodhi formation. It was one of the most powerful rank 4 formations, and even an origin transformation expert would not be able to easily destroy it. Ah! You can't even break through my defenses, how can you possibly kill me? Xiaoyan's fruitless punch was met with mockery from Chen and the rest. The duo twirled their hands as powerful Genesis Chi immediately gathered in their palms, before they each sent a vicious attack towards Xiaoyan's body. Boom! The attacks of the two of them were blocked by Xiaoyan's crossed arms. At the same time, his body swiftly withdrew. He frowned slightly as he stared at the golden formation that the two of them were wearing. He hesitated for an instant before a killing intent suddenly surged within his eyes.